What does Donald Trump have to do for you to say, man, he's morally bankrupt? I can't support this guy anymore. What does he have to do? Does he have to be on video for you to say, geez, I can't support him anymore?
There's a lot of cases of Trump calling people, checking on them when they're in the hospital, when they're dying of cancer. Representative Steve Scalise, for example, when he got shot, Trump checked on him. They said for months he would call every single day. To make the argument that he's morally bankrupt, I think is not fair.
He's cheated on every single woman he's ever been with, including his current wife, or contractual wife, I'd like to call her, Melania Trump, with Stormy Daniels. He raw-dogged Stormy Daniels literally 2 weeks after Barron was born.
I do think that Trump is a bad guy. I think he's low morals. All presidents, and even like Kamala Harris, their low morality actually applies to what they did while they were in office.
Can you name me one thing that Joe Biden has ever said that rises to that level of disrespect?
He killed 13 U.S. soldiers with a box pole. Don't please me. That's bullshit.
I believe Bill Clinton did some horrible things. You are not willing to sit here and say the same about Donald Trump because you're in a cult. The guy joining us right now, this is really weird for me to say. It's very strange. He was accused and arrested for an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. I am Brian Shapiro from the show Pushing the Limits, and my first prompt today is why I say Donald Trump is morally bankrupt. All right, thanks for coming. Obviously, I believe Donald Trump is morally bankrupt. Before I get into that, I want to get your take. What do you think about that? Do you agree with me that Trump is a morally bankrupt man?
Well, what's that mean?
Well, it means that, we have 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. When you're a 34-count felon, when your own ex-wife says that he raped her and then he pays her off to keep her mouth shut. This is a guy that is a swindler, whether we talk about Trump University or, there's a number of different issues. We could talk about when Robert Mueller dies and he says, I'm happy he's dead. The comments he made about John McCain, for example. I know I'm throwing a lot at you and I probably have about 200 different things that I could mention. But the man has no moral compass. He only cares about himself. And I really don't know how anybody out there, especially the evangelical right, can support this man when you look at his actions. And yes, he is a liable sexual abuser, whether people want to admit that or not. He was found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. He's cheated on every single woman he's ever been with, including his current wife, or contractual wife, I'd like to call her, Melania Trump, with Stormy Daniels. I mean, you're aware of that, right? He raw-dogged Stormy Daniels literally 2 weeks after Barron was born. I'm sorry if I'm being graphic, but I am. That is a morally bankrupt man who only cares about himself, and I don't know how anybody could defend that. You can try.
Well, if this is what you believe, you got that information from somewhere.
What do you mean believe, with respect? Is he not a liable sexual abuser, yes or no?
I don't believe so.
Okay, but what did a court say? What did a jury say? Let's forget about your beliefs for a moment and my beliefs. The question is Donald Trump a liable sexual abuser? If I asked you if O.J. Simpson, well, he's dead now, but if O.J. Simpson was a double murderer, you could say, I believe he probably committed those crimes, but a jury found him innocent. So my question is Donald Trump a liable sexual abuser?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
but I don't.
But I'm not asking you whether. I understand you don't believe E. Jean Carroll.
I don't believe the court and the trials, as all my friends here will probably concur, were setups. That those weren't real trials.
What about the 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault? Are they all lying as well, including his ex-wife in court documents in a deposition?
I would need to see that.
You would need to see that. So how can you argue whether he's morally...
These are narratives in the news.
No, they're not narratives in the news. When you're found liable in a court of law, that's not a narrative. That's actually what happened. When Donald Trump says, I'm grabbing women by the pussy, that's not a narrative, sir, with all due respect. He said that. I've been in locker rooms my whole life. I was a Division I college athlete. I've never heard somebody talk like that about grabbing women by the pussy. That's not a narrative. It's not a narrative, okay? When a jury finds in a courtroom that they literally find him liable for abuse. The judge in the case characterized it as rape. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Taylor.
Taylor.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Taylor. All right, Taylor. I believe Donald Trump is a morally bankrupt man. Why would you disagree?
I mean, why?
Okay, well, let me ask you a simple question about January 6th. If Donald Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election, because we all know, and it's not even up for discussion, quite frankly. He did not win the 2020 election. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. If Donald Trump didn't lie about that, does January 6th happen? Yes or no?
Possibly. I mean, he literally
Possibly?
told him. He told him to leave.
Possibly. Okay, so let's go with that for a moment.
He
So
told
you're
him to
hold
leave,
on,
though.
hold on.
Didn't he tell them to leave?
Hold on.
Did he not tell them to leave? Yes or no?
At
Yes or no?
4
Yes or
hours.
no?
Let me
Yes or
answer
no?
your question.
Yes or no?
Don't.
But yes or no?
You got to let me answer your
Yes or
question.
no?
Yeah, I'm going to answer.
You asked me a yes or no question. I'm
Okay.
going to ask you it back. Yes or no?
4 hours after it had
yes.
started.
So yes.
4 hours after
So
it
can you just
started.
say yes?
4 hours after it
Bro,
started.
Like quit.
4
quit the LARP,
hours
okay? Quit the
after
LARP.
it started.
Yes or no?
If you saw a man raping a woman, and then 4 hours after you said, "Didn't you tell him to stop?" That's a fucking ridiculous thing you're saying.
Trump here and women?
Let me explain.
Are you referring to Trump and
You're
women?
telling me.
But are
hold
you-
on. Let's
is that
talk
what
about
you're-
January
is that what-
6th.
but is
Hold
that what
on.
you're
Hold
referring
on.
to here?
Hold on. Let's start with January 6th. You're telling me that if Donald Trump did what every other president did in American history and conceded, like every other president, you're telling me January 6th still happens? I know you have that smirk on your face because you look ridiculous, okay? Tell me right now, look at me right now, and tell me right now in front of the cameras that January 6th still happens if Donald Trump concedes.
I don't think somebody that's ginger should be calling me
Okay,
ridiculous.
just answer the
number one.
question. Answer
Number
the question.
two. Number two, though.
Answer the question.
Number two. It's probably
What do you mean
wouldn't
number
happen.
two? You
It
got to take a
possibly
shit?
wouldn't
Answer the
happen,
question.
actually. It
Answer the
actually
question.
probably wouldn't happen. But you brought up Trump's
Why
rape,
won't you answer that
But
question?
you brought up rape.
Answer
and-
my
and
question.
women.
Dude, I'll answer yours, but you got to answer mine.
I said possibly. Answer
Okay,
your question.
okay. So you're saying, okay, that's a very logical opinion. So if Donald Trump concedes and does what every other president does, you still think that people try to overthrow the outcome of a free and fair election. What do you think about police officers that were beaten on January 6th? Would you call them hostages and patriots?
Would you call police officers beat?
Don't answer a question.
BLM,
Don't
right?
answer a
Oh
que-
wait, what about David Dorn?
I'll
the police
answer
officer that was
BLM.
shot and
Hold on,
killed?
hold on.
The police officer,
Hold on,
the black
sir.
police officer
Okay,
that was shot and
this
killed.
is a microcosm of what Trump supporters do. I'm happy to answer any question about BLM, and I promise you I'll answer your question. But you are going to fucking answer my question first, okay?
Am I?
And if you're not going to
Oh
answer
my
it, then
God.
take a seat and let somebody else come up there.
Am I? Are you going to force
Do
me to
you
answer it?
think that if
You're
you
gonna
beat a
force me.
cop,
You're going to force
this
me?
isn't going to go well for you if you don't answer any of my questions.
Oh, really? I
Do you
bet, yeah.
think? Do you think that
A
if
beer
you
belly
beat
is
a
gonna go
cop,
well.
okay, you can attack me on my physical appearance. That's fine.
You attacked me on
okay?
my physical, and I'm just pointing out the obvious.
No, your smile. I didn't attack you on your physical appearance.
That smile
you
is
were
physical. Are you, like,
smirking.
retarded?
So answer my question, okay? Answer my question. Otherwise, we'll go to somebody else. Are
None
you
of
a
them are
hostage?
raising. Wow, they love the people
Are
love
you
me,
a
unlike you,
hostage?
actually.
Okay, I bet they do. Are you a hostage? Now, I don't think it's funny.
Am I a hostage? No, I'm not in
Okay.
Israel or Gaza. No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a hostage, actually.
We could either have a serious conversation
You
or we
asked me
can't.
if I was a hostage.
Okay, you're not.
Is that a dumb question?
No,
I know you're not a dumb
I'm
guy.
repeating the question
Okay.
again
Am
so
I a
you can
hostage?
understand it. Okay.
I can see that.
Okay. If you beat a cop on January 6th, and we do know that there were some people that did do that, and they were convicted, are you a hostage and a patriot? And then I'll get to your Black Lives Matter question. Okay.
Well, I think that we should go case by case, and some people that did that, sure, they
Okay.
should deserve jail time.
Okay, I agree. So, but I didn't ask you if they deserve jail time. Obviously, we agree on that. If it's a Black Lives Matter protest and somebody beats a cop, of course, I want them held to the highest extent of the law. Would you characterize someone who beat a cop on January 6th as a hostage or a patriot? I'm asking you, like, this is like the 8th time and you're not answering. No. So you disagree with Donald Trump. So
I don't
would
have
we-
to agree with him on everything.
Okay, great. So,
Unlike you, you
okay,
just follow whatever
so-
Kamala, the Democratic Party says.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You mean you
what do
talk about...
Wait, hold on a second. Do you realize that I put out a video last week that went viral?
I don't follow you,
okay,
sir. I don't
good.
have Facebook.
Clearly,
I
you
know.
don't follow politics
My
either.
bad.
But let me just
Yeah,
explain
okay,
to you
but
what I did.
You literally sat here and
You
ranted
think
to him
I'm a
about...
cultist?
You sat here, you ranted to him about Donald Trump's experience with...
That's what the prompt is. That's what we're talking
women.
about.
Why don't we talk about that?
We're talking about being morally bankrupt. I
Yes.
just asked
So
you about January 6th. Connect the dots.
What about with the women?
Bro?
What about with the women? I know you don't want to
What
get into
about
that.
with women? Ask
What did
me
he do?
specifically.
What did Donald Trump do?
He was found liable for sexual abuse. Okay, that was proven. He's had 30 allegations from women that I believe that are credible, including his ex-wife in court documents in a deposition. He's the guy that's named over 40,000 times in the Epstein files, who Donald Trump and Epstein said were best friends. Let me ask you a question since you want to talk about women. I'm glad you brought that up. Can you give me one logical reason why Donald Trump has treated Ghislaine Maxwell like a VIP? Give me one reason.
He shouldn't have. And also...
He shouldn't have.
I mean, while we're on
Morally
the subject,
bankrupt.
While we're
Thank
on
you.
the subject
Thank
of
you.
women, I mean, those teeth look pretty nice. Who'd you extort? Your ex-wife?
Are you a serious person?
What about the order of protection?
Are you
I mean,
not
I
a
know
serious
you know a lot
person?
about the
All right,
civil...
all right. You're obviously not a serious person. Get him out of here.
No.
You're not a
Why don't we talk
serious
about
person.
your court documents
You're not a
with
serious
your
person.
ex-girlfriend.
You're not a serious
with your
person.
ex-girlfriend. The
Who's
court
my-
documents with your ex-girlfriend.
What ex-girlfriend are you
The
referring
order of
to?
protection that you filed against her?
Wasn't an ex-girlfriend.
For actually going
No.
after your Medicaid
Wasn't an
fraud?
ex-girlfriend.
You asked her for $1,000.
Wasn't an
Okay,
ex-girlfriend.
Who was it then? Who was it then?
I'm happy to
Tell me-
answer that,
then
even though
answer
you're
the
not a
question. Then
serious
answer the
person.
question.
Sure. So, in the last 2 years of my life, I've had people who have threatened my life. The person that you are referring to, okay, is somebody that sent me death threats. It was never somebody, let me finish. It was never somebody that I dated. It was never an ex-girlfriend. This person threatened me, threatened my family, was obsessed with me. So because of that, there are no public court documents. Do you know why?
But she gave you money.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know why? Do you know anything about this situation?
Well, I mean, I saw the text messages.
Yeah,
between
yeah.
you two.
Those
Cursing
aren't.
at a woman.
Those
Cursing
aren't.
at a woman is not
those
morally
aren't,
okay.
Those aren't court
I don't think
documents.
You're the person talking
Okay,
about morally
you
talking to
you
women.
are bringing up something that you know absolutely nothing about. The reason why I had
bringing
to
up
file.
something that you
I'm
can't
trying
actually
to
prove beyond a
I'm
reasonable
trying
doubt
to.
that Donald Trump is a sexual abuser.
Okay, so now you're going back to Trump.
Beyond a
I'm trying to
reasonable
hold on a
doubt.
second. You brought up something about my
holding.
personal life. Okay. And you don't know what you're talking about. The
You have
reason
no
why
idea what you're
the
talking
reason
about
why I
for
had
another
to file
person's personal life. So that's why I'm here sitting here defending them.
Excuse me. I was never found liable for anything in a court of law. I have never been
But you
in
know
a
the
court of
burden of
law.
proof.
Okay, but I'm answering
In a
your
civil
question.
case, a burden
I'm
of proof in a
answering your
civil-
question about a restraining order that I had to file against
civil
somebody,
case, right?
and apparently you think this is funny. What do you mean civil case? I didn't civilly file a lawsuit against anybody. Do you know the difference between a civil case and what I did, which was file a restraining order
I'm glad
against
you brought
somebody?
that up. I'm actually glad you brought that
what
up.
you just said is a complete lie. It's factually inaccurate. And if you can find me any court case and any court document of me breaking any laws or doing anything, please go ahead and let me know. You're not a serious person. You don't know what you're talking about. You're here just to smirk and laugh and make jokes. So get the fuck out of here and let somebody else come
well,
up
you're
here.
saying-
I'm not talking to this guy anymore. Get the
Oh,
fuck out of here.
okay.
Yeah, the fuck out of here. What's up, man?
So
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Nate.
Nate, nice to meet
So
you.
look, I won't make excuses for a lot of what Trump says. You know, he says a lot of things that probably a lot of people disagree with, and he's a very polarizing president. But my question is he a good president, right? Is he a moral president, and does he preside with morality? And I think that number one, the Make America Healthy Again movement, just recently they just reduced 35% of the foods now have been reduced and gotten rid of the toxic dyes in the food, which is going to help to improve the health of the next generation. Veterans, for example, more veterans have killed themselves than all of the Afghanistan wars from suicide. It's a big problem. So Trump is now also addressing.
Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
So I do believe that there are some policies where you could say, okay, those policies are helping people. But I also believe two things could be right at the same time. You could agree with some policies that you think are helping the American people, but you could also be a morally bankrupt guy, right? For example, and you tell me if you disagree with this or not, in regards to the war in Iran, right? 175 school children are killed. The first thing he does is blame Iran. And by the way, I don't defend Iran or the Iran government, right? He knew that Tomahawk, or maybe he didn't, which is unbelievably ignorant, but we own Tomahawk missiles, and there are a few other countries in the world that do. What's the first thing he does? He says Iran did it. To this day, he hasn't apologized for that, right? I'm not saying that the Trump administration intentionally tried to kill 175 school children. I don't think they tried to do that on purpose. But when you know you did it, take responsibility for it. And I think that's morally bankrupt. Innocent
Is there
people,
evidence that
yeah,
they did that?
they've already.
I think they've made it. To
Members of the
they made it
Trump
to, right?
administration have said it was a mistake, but Pete Hegseth has never been on the record yet apologizing or saying it was their fault. Donald Trump has not done that either. I think when you're the president of the United States, it's your responsibility to do that. Yes, we can get into the personal stuff, and I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I'm sure there's some policies that you like that could be helping people. I get that. But I just feel like on a world stage, it's very important to own and take responsibility for mistakes that were made, whether you agree or disagree with the war in Iran. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Again, if it turns out that it was indeed our fault, then he probably.
It was, though. That's my point.
I just didn't look into it, so I don't
I understand.
know if that's
What do you think about the war, by the way? Do you think it's morally the right
I
thing to
don't
do?
necessarily. I'm not 100% for it, but if it were the case that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon, I don't think that's a risk anybody should be taking.
I mean, I believe that whether you agree or disagree with the president and you're a Republican or a Democrat, having nicknames for people that you disagree with, days after, I think it was the day after Robert Mueller died, he goes on social media, he says, I'm glad he's dead.
Again,
I mean, imagine if Joe Biden or Obama said something like
I'm
that.
not going to try to defend what he said, his tweets.
Do you think he's a moral man?
I think he presides with presidency with morality. And I think that really what matters is his policies and the outcomes for the American people. If we have safer cities, safer streets, healthier children, more better healthcare for
I
our
understand
veterans, then
I mean, I can't. We're going to talk about policy. I'm happy to do that
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
But
that's just kind of
I'm
really
happy.
the angle that I want to
So
take.
what's
here
your?
with
I
this.
understand. So what's your threshold? What does Donald Trump have to do for you to say, man, he's morally bankrupt? I can't support this guy anymore. What does he have to do? Does he have to be on video molesting a child for you to say, geez, I can't support him anymore? This is a guy who literally is protecting pedophiles. Literally, as we speak. Look at Ghislaine Maxwell and look at the way the administration is treating her like a VIP. Even after 5 months ago, with her attorney, she said, I'm not giving up any names unless you give me a full pardon. That's what she said. Did Donald Trump put her back into that prison? No. I asked the last guy the same question. I'll ask you the same question. Can you give me one logical reason why Maxwell's still in a Club Med facility right now?
Yeah, she's got leverage, and she's probably one of the last living people that has information.
So he's probably protecting people, if not himself. Is that a fair characterization?
Or he's trying to get information.
If he was trying to get information, she just said she would not give up names unless she gets a full pardon. Now, maybe you could have used that reasoning a year ago, but you can't use it now. So what is the reason why she's still in a Club Med facility?
Well, like they say, you attract more bees with honey, right, than vinegar. So I just think that there's probably a strategy. She was very heavily involved. And I think that
What would the strategy be if she already said she's not speaking unless she gets a full pardon?
People changed their mind.
So you think the biggest sex trafficker, arguably in American history, is allowed a dog, allowed guests and people to come in there? She's allowed to use the internet and work out whenever she wants to. You can't be okay with that.
No, I'm definitely not okay with that. I don't know the circumstances of her confinement. If that's the
Well,
case.
the circumstances have gone up publicly because Democrats have investigated this and they've released that, and that's where I'm getting that information from. And it's not like out of thin air. I understand you might like some of his policies. I would disagree with you on that, and we can get into that a little bit later in the next prompt. But my point is that he's just a really awful human being, and I think if you're a chaotic man who's lived a chaotic life, you're probably going to be a chaotic president, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. And I don't think the man has any morals at all. I think the only person he cares about is himself. He doesn't care about everyday Americans. If he did, he wouldn't have given tax breaks to the top 1%.
Didn't he lose money during his first presidency? Didn't he become less rich?
Do you know that Donald Trump has made more money in the presidency than every single president combined? Every single president combined. He's made more money.
Well, his family's running the Trump brand.
He and his family have made more money off the presidency than all the presidents combined. You could look that up. You look at the crypto scandal that this guy has made billions of dollars for him and his family. We can talk about that. We could talk about the Trump Bibles. We could talk about the Trump paraphernalia. So listen, we can talk about selling Bibles. I don't know if anybody here is a religious person. The guy has Bibles sold in China for $1. He's selling Bibles for $60 a pop. He's made $1.3 million off of the Bibles. What about all the people who bought the Trump phones? Now, eventually they might get the phones, but boy, we're not getting a lot of information on that. He made $60 million off of that. That's what I mean by morally bankrupt. Yeah, he doesn't take his $400,000 a year salary so he can gold plate the White House. But when you've made billions of dollars and Jared Kushner makes $2.1 billion from the Saudis, to me, that's a morally bankrupt president of the United States. And even if I might like or dislike some of his policies, I do believe that the man has no morals.
Did he make money because of the presidency or despite
Absolutely.
the presidency?
Because of the presidency.
Do you have evidence on that, on the correlation?
So, yeah. I mean, do you think he would have made billions of dollars off of this crypto deal if he wasn't president? Do you think he would have been selling Bibles and he would have made that money off of Bibles, or he would have sold the Trump shoes or the Trump hats, Make America Great Again, or whatever?
When you're a businessman, you find ways to make money.
He wasn't selling any of that stuff before he ran for president.
He would have been doing something else.
I disagree with you.
I mean, that's just speculation.
I mean, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. All right, Joe, nice to meet you. Obviously, I think Donald Trump is a morally bankrupt man and a terrible human being. Where am I wrong?
Well, I would say that it's hard to judge a person completely by their public persona all the time because we don't know what he's going through as a person, as a president. I can't sit here, and honestly, coming on to this debate, 10 Republicans versus a liberal is more of like, let's talk about the Republican policy.
You think I'm a liberal?
Well, that's the way it's set, is like, hey, this Jubilee, 10 Republicans versus liberal. I think that's why we're all here.
Anti-Trump.
Right. And so
Yep.
I think to be able to come here and see the prompts like a day before and be like, it's all like bad mouthing our POTUS I'm going to try to do this in a respectful litigation way. So it's hard for me as a person to say that, yes, one person is totally morally bankrupt because I don't know him personally. I see what he's trying to do as president. I see that he's done good things.
You need to know somebody personally to make a judgment and say that's a bad person.
Personally, yes.
You have to know.
Deeply
So was
who they are
Jeffrey
as a
Dahmer a good person? You didn't know him personally?
I didn't know him personally.
No.
Did he come to Christ at the end? I don't know. I have
So-
no idea.
so
So,
you can-
it's not my position
Okay,
to
but
say
hold
who
on.
a person is morally. I'm judging them on their job.
Okay, so I judge people on human beings, how they've lived their life.
How do you know how they live their life?
Well,
if you
because
don't know who
Jeffrey
they
Dahmer
are?
was a convicted murderer.
Okay, fair enough.
Why can't you can't say Jeffrey Dahmer was a bad guy?
I'm not saying he wasn't a bad guy. He killed
Morally
people.
bankrupt. He's a murderer, right?
Okay, so
bad
morally,
dude.
you want me to say morally bankrupt, and this is kind of like you want me to put this in this box. But what I'm trying to say is that as a person to another person, it's hard for anybody to say I know 100% this person is a morally bankrupt evil person. That's all
Okay,
I'm saying.
so let's go issue by issue, and you could tell me whether you think it's a morally horrific, I don't know, thing to do. Again, I want to go back because it's in the news because it happened several months ago. Robert Mueller dies. He's a Purple Heart recipient. Never been convicted.
Badmouthed him on Twitter, saying that he was happy that he died.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's a horrible thing to say,
It's not
right?
a nice thing to say.
Rob Reiner.
Did he kill him though?
No, I never said that.
Because if he killed him,
I never
that
said
would
that.
be
Yeah.
evil.
There's a difference
He said a
between
bad thing on Twitter.
Yeah. Pretty horrible,
Tactless.
right?
I would say
Robert
it was
Reiner.
not a classy joke.
I think it's a horrible. Rob Reiner. Well, he wasn't joking. He said, "I'm glad he's dead." I don't think that's a joke.
Well, he jokes very roughly and badly. I'm not saying that he makes great
Rob
statements.
Reiner and his wife were brutally murdered, I would assume, by their son. And then the next day, instead of saying nothing or saying, hey, thoughts and prayers for the family, he mocks Rob Reiner. Now, my personal opinion, and I'll talk about Charlie Kirk today too. I called out everybody on the left who celebrated his death. Now, I didn't celebrate his life because I don't think Charlie Kirk was a good guy, but I would never celebrate his death. What happened to him was awful. Terrible. I know people, friends that were 30 feet away.
He was my boss.
And I'm sorry for your loss. It's horrible, okay? And I got emotional on the air because I was on the air when it happened. Anybody who celebrates somebody dying or being murdered, I think it's wrong. I think it's repugnant. It's terrible. Why is it okay for the president of the United States to do that? I'm not saying you're saying it's okay, but Rob Reiner was brutally murdered. And what does Donald Trump do? He goes on Twitter the next day. And he starts making horrible remarks about the Reiner family. Now, I've talked to a lot of MAGA Republicans that say that was wrong, but we're not talking about a podcaster. We're not talking about somebody at the water cooler in a conversation. That would be bad enough. We're talking about the president of the United States who's supposed to show leadership, and he's celebrating and making jokes about people dying. In this case, Rob Reiner murdered. Joe, I just think it's disgusting.
Yeah, definitely not a class act move. I personally actually knew Rob Reiner. Personally, he actually was very nice to my family. He got us tickets to U2 at the Sphere. So it was a very personal thing to hear that. And I think what happens is Rob Reiner's been a proponent against the conservative cause and against Trump. And so Trump finds a moment to, hey, he's dead. Thank goodness. Let's poke a little knife at him. And so is it classy? No. Did he kill Rob Reiner? No. So it's a different opinion on those cases specifically.
If a Democrat did that, I would be saying the exact same thing. I would call out anybody on the left. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, James Woods is murdered, okay? I don't want that to happen. Or, I don't know, Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain, whatever. I'm just giving people on the right that are staunch Trump supporters, right? Let's just say they're brutally murdered. And again, I don't want that to happen. Let's just say that happened under the Biden administration. And then the next day, Joe Biden goes on social media. Let's just say it's Dean Cain.
He doesn't know how to get on social media.
But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is if a lefty, anybody, an elected official, high up, made a joke about a murder of one of these people, I would say the exact same thing. It's morally bankrupt. But listen, I'm not a huge Joe Biden defender, but the man has empathy for people. He wouldn't do that.
I mean, he can't do anything. He's sleeping the whole time.
Well, again,
he can't even walk up.
Have you been watching the news? Did you see Donald Trump fall asleep at the meetings last week? And then the excuse I got when his eyes are closed for 15 seconds is he was blinking. I mean,
there's
on.
a huge difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
We can get into that, but Donald Trump is the guy that said you need voter ID to buy bread. Donald Trump is the guy who said Jeb Bush got us into the war in Iraq. Donald Trump is the guy that said I defeated Barack Obama in the elections. So they're both old people, okay? They're both old. Okay.
Let's talk about the morality again. I actually
Okay,
thought
sure,
that was
sure.
interesting.
It
So
wa- yeah.
you had a couple of the 2 points, and then you said your third point was
Well, I have a lot of points that I could make on
Well,
why
let's
I
move
think
to the
he's
next one then.
why I think he's okay. That's
because
fair.
it was him saying stuff on Twitter, not classy.
What
but
about
he
what
didn't
about what he said
actually
about John
murder
McCain?
anybody.
He said you don't have to be morally bankrupt. You don't have to murder somebody to be morally bankrupt. Let's talk about John McCain. Donald Trump is a guy who dodged the military 5 times. Okay, and say what you want about John McCain, but he did serve this country honorably. Okay, Donald Trump said he didn't respect him because he was captured.
Again,
I'm not a fan.
Another tactless joke. It seems
So
like
it's
he's
just
not the
tactless
best.
jokes.
He's just not the best comedian, is what it sounds like. You kind of have the biggest problem with, is that he says things that he thinks are funny, and I really truly do believe that he thinks they are
Well,
funny. 'Cause
I'm glad
some of
you
them
said that.
Are absolutely hilarious.
okay, well, nothing I've said I think is
as
hilarious.
a stand-up, as people, anybody who knows who's done stand-up or anything, you know that you're going to take your chances with, hey,
So-
big swing here, big swing
So
there.
here's okay, Joe. So here's what I would say to that. Donald Trump is not a guy performing at Laugh Factory tonight. He's the president of the United States. He's supposed to be the leader of the free world. Even if he thinks it's funny, which I think is repulsive, you're supposed to be a leader. There is nothing funny, and it's not, oh, he was just making a bad joke. No. When you laugh and make jokes about death, you are morally repugnant. When you're the president of the United States, you're not some guy making a couple $100 doing stand-up comedy somewhere. That would be bad enough.
Well, then
He's-
apparently there's a lot of morally bankrupt comedians out there because half of
But
their
Donald, that's my whole
stand-up
point.
is about
Joe,
death.
Joe, that's my whole point.
Look, my whole point is to
Joe,
say that Donald Trump is a person just like you and me. I'm not saying that
I'm not like
everything he
Donald
does is perfect, but he has one of the hardest jobs in the world as the president, and we don't know what it's like to be in that.
not an excuse to make jokes about people
I'm
dying.
not saying it's an
and I
excuse.
make the
I'm
same
saying
point
it's
I made
more
before.
complicated than what we're trying to set it up as.
Different standards for different people. You have a comedian that you might think a joke is inappropriate. I called out Pete Davidson today on the air. I thought the joke he made about Charlie Kirk was wrong. But here's the difference. Davidson's not the president of the United States. Donald Trump is the leader of the free world. The two don't equal each other. Comedian, leader of the free world.
That's why I think it's important what he says and what he does.
I think they're both important.
I agree.
Thank you. We agree on something. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I can't say I'm a fan of your shirt. It's difficult to look at, but that's okay. All right. So obviously, I've made my cases why I believe Trump is morally bankrupt. Where am I wrong?
Yeah, so look, here's the thing. So I don't think Trump's a saint. I think every single person will agree that. Probably even his own kids. But the premise that he's morally bankrupt means that he has, in my view, that means someone has no morals, right? And I would say that that's an extreme way to call him, because there's so many cases of people saying that Trump is such a generous person. Behind closed doors, he's helped people pay for cancer treatments. He's helped veterans with treatments. He's paid for people's mortgages over the year. There's literally, like, if you were to Google it, there's thousands of people that have said that he was very generous to them, even people on the other side that don't like him. Bill Maher, for example, went to the White House. Bill Maher was very thankful.
Yeah. Can I talk about that? Can we talk about Bill Maher?
Yeah, just let me finish
Sure.
that a little
Go
bit.
ahead. Yep.
So Bill Maher has said this. A lot of Democratic people on the other side have said that he's very warm. He's very friendly in person. He's very charismatic. One last point. Amy Guthrie, are you familiar with, I'm sure most of you guys know, her mother went missing.
Yes.
Amy Guthrie is a known Democratic, well, she's on that side. I would argue that Trump went above and beyond to get FBI, to get all the resources to help her out. If he truly was morally bankrupt, I don't think he would be helping anyone on the other side. I don't think he would have called her. There's a lot of cases of Trump calling people, checking on them when they're in the hospital, when they're dying of cancer. Representative Steve Scalise, for example, when he got shot, Trump checked on him. They said for months he would call every single day. So to make the argument that he's morally bankrupt, I think is not fair. Also, his kids, not only as a person, you can't just judge a person on them, also their kids as well, because they're a reflection. A lot of people have said really good things about Eric Trump, about Ivanka, all the charity they've done.
You mean the money they stole from their charities?
Trump has done a lot of charity.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of people that have said many good things.
You're throwing
about
a
them.
lot at me. So let me
Yeah.
let me just
You threw
you
a
can
lot at the
continue.
first guy,
I
but-
did, but let me Okay, so let me just go through.
So I don't think someone.
Let me do the
I don't
best-
think someone can be morally bankrupt
Yeah.
and do all those great things that I hope you won't ignore or brush over because they did happen.
So let me try to go through the list here because I tried to write down as much stuff as possible. Let's start with Bill Maher. First of all, Bill Maher had dinner with Donald Trump for 2.5 hours. Just because somebody treats somebody nice for 2.5 hours doesn't mean they have great morals.
Bill
I don't.
Bill
hold
Gates
on.
had
Let
dinner
me
and
just
said the
finish.
same thing.
Let me just finish. I don't care what Bill Gates or Bill
There's
Maher
a lot
says.
of people,
Okay,
is
hold
my
on.
point.
Just
Yeah.
because somebody treats you nice, I had a lot of people at AmFest that treated me nice.
Yeah.
Does that mean I fell in love with everybody there?
Do
No.
you think they're
Hold
morally
on.
bankrupt,
Hold
though?
on. Let me just finish. I'm just making the point to you that just because Bill Maher spends 2.5 hours with a guy, and by the way, these days I don't think Bill Maher has any fucking credibility.
He was mad that
hold on,
Obama
hold on.
didn't
Let me
invite
just
him.
finish. Hold on, you gotta let me finish.
You know?
I'm giving you my reason why.
Yeah.
He has Steve Fetterman on his show who can't put two sentences together, doesn't challenge him on anything. He has Beetlejuice Lauren Boebert on his show.
Who are you talking
doesn't,
about? Bill Maher?
Yeah, he has Boebert on his show.
Well, usually he's high on these shows,
But
so-
it doesn't matter. But the point I'm making is he has election deniers on his show and lunatics on the right and idiots like Fetterman. Yes, I do think Fetterman's an idiot. He doesn't challenge them on anything anymore. You know why he did that? You know why he said,
challenges
hey,
the Democrats
Trump
a lot.
treated me nice for 2.5 hours. You know why he did that?
Why? Who did
Ratings,
what?
clicks, to get more people on the right to come on his show. Now,
Do you know that for
now,
a fact, or is that just speculative?
well, why do you think he changed his tune a little bit, and why do you think he doesn't challenge MAGA Republicans like he used to?
but it's speculative, right?
Whoa, wait
We
a
can
second.
agree it's speculative.
Hold on. No, I
right?
don't. I disagree.
Right.
Why?
But
so that's the Bill Maher thing. We can agree.
Brian, my issue is that there's hundreds of people on the
I
opposite
will get
side
to
of the
that.
aisle
I will get
that
to
have
that.
given Trump credit for that.
Okay.
So how can you
Give me
say that
one
how can-
prominent Democrat-
How can you honestly say that he's
Okay.
completely morally?
Well, I'm going
he's
through the
paid
list.
For thousands of
I already
people's
heard you say that.
surgeries.
Let me go through the list.
He's
It is-
employed tens of
okay,
thousands of people, including migrants.
Again, including undocumented people. You
Yeah,
probably don't
which
talk
he
about
did-
that.
Okay, but he helped
so hold
them.
on, hold on.
He used to be a Democrat.
Let me go through the list here. I mentioned Bill Maher, and I just think there's no credibility there.
Okay.
This is
That's
a guy.
just one guy of many.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just going through the list of the things you said to defend it. You said he went to the FBI and went above and beyond to help the Guthrie family, right?
Yeah, he did.
He also has gone to the FBI and gone above and beyond to punish some of his political opponents. So if you're going to make the
What
argument,
about the previous?
hold on.
What about the previous
Ho-
DOJ?
Hold on. We can talk about Joe.
DOJ put
Hold
him in
on.
court his whole
What
time
about
out of
what
office.
about? This prompt is about Donald Trump. I'm happy to have a conversation with you
I'm
about
just
Joe
saying,
Biden.
be fair.
And I'm just
Be
saying,
reasonable.
and I'm just being reasonable.
Be reasonable on
and
both
I'm just being
sides.
reasonable.
Both
Hold
sides
on.
use lawfare.
But this debate and this prompt is not about
But you
Democrats.
said,
It's
is
about
he,
Donald
is he
Trump.
morally bankrupt?
Hold on.
Morally bankrupt means
you're-
someone has no
you're
morals.
giving me-
means they have zero morals.
You're giving me a list of
Can
why.
you make a claim? Can
you're-
you make a case that Trump has zero morals?
Well, I think I've already done that.
Or
but
is
I'll-
there a percentage
I'll
in him that
continue.
maybe there is morals
Why?
there?
What would you say about somebody who protects pedophiles?
What? I don't know. I mean,
You
I
don't
don't
know?
think he's protecting pedophiles.
You don't.
No, I don't.
Why is Maxwell in prison right now and in a Club Med
well,
facility?
she's in prison, right?
Club Med facility.
in prison.
Yeah, but they moved her to a high
She's in
security.
prison.
Hold on.
Who's they though? Trump doesn't give it. The thing is,
You don't- you- wait, hold
Brian,
on. Hold on.
Brian,
Trump doesn't
no,
give those
Trump
commands?
doesn't give the direct orders.
He doesn't.
Of what a
So
judge.
who told Todd? Who told
he
Todd
doesn't-
Blanche?
He does not give.
Okay.
Trump. Trump. This is a very important point that I want to make. Trump is the president of the United States. He does not give direct orders to federal judges
Didn't
on
ask
what
you
is
that.
going to be done with prisoners.
Who?
The only thing he
Okay,
can do
let's
is
talk about
is
that.
Pardon them.
Let's talk
If
about
he,
that.
If he loved
Hold
her
on.
so much, why didn't
Dude,
he pardon?
let's talk
why
about
didn't
that.
he pardon her?
Who told Donald Trump's former personal attorney, Todd Blanche, to go interview Ghislaine Maxwell? And why is it 2 days later, after that interview, she was transferred to a Club Med facility?
As far as I'm
Who told
concerned,
Todd Blanche to do that?
That's
who
DOJ.
did it?
That's DOJ.
So you don't think Trump had anything to do with that?
Well, Pam Bondi was the boss of Todd Blanche at the time.
You don't think Trump
that's
had
her
anything to
boss.
do with that?
I don't know. My point is, you're just
That's
using
not- you're not being
speculation.
intellectually honest.
My point. Well, neither are you when you say
He won't rule out a pardon for her.
Neither are you being morally intellectual when you won't acknowledge that Trump has done good and that he's not completely
I never
morally
said.
bankrupt.
I never said that
You
Trump.
haven't acknowledged
hold
any
on,
of the good
hold on.
things he's ever done.
I'll acknowledge it.
Okay.
I'm sure in Donald Trump's life, he's done some good things. I've never said otherwise.
good things.
Okay, just because somebody in their life does some or many good things doesn't mean that he's a morally good man.
But I didn't say that though. You're saying that he's morally bankrupt.
Absolutely. I've given
Morally
you a lot of
bankrupt
reasons
means
for that.
There's zero morals. And what I'm saying to you is, though his sex life might have been complicated, and he's
It's
been
not.
accused,
No, that's not.
okay,
you're
but what I'm saying is
mischaracterizing
he's
it.
also done a lot of good.
Hold on a second. I never said he's morally bankrupt because of his sex life.
Most of the examples you listed were either sex life or comments he
Sex
made
life
on Twitter.
Sex life would mean
Which
he's going out with a lot of different
let
women.
me ask you a question.
Hold on a second.
You brought up the tweets.
Well, hold on. Let's
you
do
brought up-
sex
you-
life.
You brought up the tweets with Robert Mueller. How many people on the Democratic side have said really nasty things? You have Jimmy Kimmel. You have all these people.
I'm talking about elected officials, not a comedian.
And that doesn't get addressed.
Hold on. We are talking about elected officials. So if you want to talk about, hold on, name me one elected official on the left, for example, that was celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk or an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Can you name me one?
Yeah, there was AOC.
What did she say about Charlie Kirk?
She made tweets basically
What did she say?
insinuating that we have to stand up for even if that means violence. What's the other
What?
lady? No,
Hold on, let's
there's
stick with
another
AOC.
lady.
Hold on.
I'm just trying to think
one
of
at
her
a
name.
time. Hold on.
Maxine
Hold on.
Waters. There
One
you
at a
go.
time.
Maxine Waters.
What did she say
She
about
has
Charlie Kirk?
publicly said over and over that we need to stand up and use violence if it's
Okay,
necessary.
hold on. You're not listening to my question. You're not listening to my question.
There's many
Listen to my question.
There's many Democratic politicians that have said
you can
things
say
like
many,
this.
but we're going to be specific
There's
here.
and
You're not-
influencers.
Wait, you got to listen to my question. You're not answering my question. Name me one elected official on the left.
Maxine Waters.
No, you're not letting me finish. And by the way, she didn't, but we can get to
She
that.
actually did.
Celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. Give me one.
I didn't say she celebrated it.
Okay, she said,
a
and what
lot
did
of-
she say
A lot of
specifically?
elected officials.
She said be confrontational.
A lot of elected officials on the left have called for doing whatever it takes to get Trump
Violence?
out, whether that's lawfare,
Violence?
whether that's violence.
Name me one person.
I
Give me
just
the
said
quote.
Maxine-
What did she say?
She went on Twitter.
What did
and
she
she
say?
also made a video.
What did she
I remember
say?
specifically in a video that she said that we have to stand up against Trump even
Okay.
if violence is involved.
No, she never said that.
They-
You're a liar.
you know, that's
no,
not true.
you are wrong.
No, that's
I will
not true,
pay
man.
you and I will
She
eat my
did
own
say
shit.
that.
No. I will
Pay me,
pay you.
pay me, pay me.
I'll make $1,000
Yeah.
bet with you right now
Okay.
that Maxine Waters never condoned
Did
violence.
Did Trump call for?
You're lying.
Wait,
What
let
you
me
just
ask you
said
a
is
question.
wrong.
Wait, let me
You're
ask you a
lying.
question.
You can't just say things.
Whenever Trump was happy that Robert Mueller died, was that him calling for violence?
Why are you changing the subject?
No, I'm just answer the question.
No,
though.
you didn't answer mine.
He didn't call
Hold
for
on
violence.
a second. You didn't
He
answer
didn't
my.
call,
Hold on.
He did not call for violence
Hold
or
on.
assassination.
You just
he
said-
was happy that someone that he
You
disliked
just
died.
This is important. You just said
If Adolf Hitler
you
died,
gotta-
I would
dude,
be happy
dude,
too.
Hold on.
What's the
you
difference?
I just said, name me. I asked you a question, and it was
I
very
said
specific.
Maxine Waters.
And you're wrong. You
No,
just
I'm
lied
not.
about her
I'll
quote.
Google it.
She never. I don't need to
Google
Google it
it.
because I know the
Google
quote you're
it.
talking about. You Google it. I just
Look
made you.
up Democratic
I just,
politicians that have called for violence. There's
and you're
a
saying,
list of them.
and you're wrong.
No, I'm
you're
not
wrong.
wrong.
Well, listen, dude.
We can disagree on that. But
it's not about a
let's
disagreement.
go back.
You're just
Let's-
making
let's
up
talk
quotes.
let's talk about morally bankrupt, right? So you have the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, so we're talking about the Clintons now.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about Trump.
No, I will
Is
talk
this,
about
is this
him.
prompt about the
No,
Clintons? I don't defend the Clintons. No, let me be very clear. Let me be very clear.
Talk about
No,
Trump.
we're going to end this right now.
Let me talk about Trump. Trump was already
No, we're going to
wealthy.
end this right now.
Trump was already
about Clinton.
wealthy.
Can I talk to you about Clinton? Because we're going to end
Do
your
you like
talking
him,
points
yes
right
or
here. No, listen to me. I believe Bill Clinton did some horrible things to women.
great.
I have gone on national
I'm glad.
networks.
I'm
No,
glad.
no, but here's the difference between you and me.
What?
I don't defend Bill Clinton, okay? Even though he was a fiscally responsible president, I'm not going to sit here like you and
Do you
defend
think
it.
he was morally bankrupt?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But unlike you,
Do you think-
oh, wait a second.
do you think
wait
Obama
a second.
was?
Wait a second. Unlike you, I'm able to look you in the face right now as a man and say, I believe Bill Clinton did some horrible things. You are not willing to sit here and say the same about Donald Trump because you're in a fucking cult.
Well, I actually do think
You're in a cult.
No. I do.
You're a cultist.
I do. Wait, let me talk.
Is Trump morally bankrupt at all? Yes
I
or no?
don't think he's morally bankrupt. I do think that he's done things that weren't good, and as a Christian, there's things I don't obviously
Not good or really bad?
Yeah, things that could be perceived
Really
really
bad?
bad. But I think since he's been in office, I don't think he's displayed the same character that he did maybe when he was a billionaire in New York when he was hanging out with tons of women. But I also think it's hypocritical to say that he's morally bankrupt when he's helped thousands of people. He's very generous. There's a lot of people that have a lot of good things, including people on your side of the aisle to say positive things about him.
Who said he's a great guy on the left?
If you look at something else, he doesn't take the presidential salary. He was wait. He was already wealthy before he got in. If you look at Clinton, they were negative 200K after they were worth 200 million. You look at Obama, when he got in, he was middle class.
All right, I'll end by saying
now
this.
he's worth over
I'll end by-
$150 million.
I'll end by saying this.
Nancy
And by the way, this is a
Pelosi.
fact.
Nancy
Hold on.
Pelosi.
I'm not defending
She's
Nancy
wealthy.
Pelosi. This
So my point is,
hold on,
all
hold
these
on.
politicians
No.
have moral
Hold on.
problems.
You just said he doesn't accept
Which
his salary.
politician
Hold
is the
on.
most ethical?
You got to let me finish.
Which politician in your
you
opinion
gotta,
is the most
You got to let me
ethical?
respond to what you
Which
just said.
politician in
You
your
got to let me
opinion
respond to what you just
is
said.
the most
You
ethical?
got to let me respond to what you just
Okay,
said.
all
You've
right.
been interrupting a lot.
Go,
I didn't
go.
interrupt you.
Yeah, I just
you
don't have a lot of time,
bragged.
so-
I understand.
Yeah.
You just bragged or made a claim. Well, Donald Trump, he doesn't accept his $400,000 a year salary. By the way.
Which he hasn't done
okay,
his first term either, by the way.
You can use your Google or maybe your Trump phone, which you never got.
Yeah.
But
I didn't order one.
Okay, well, you're one of the smarter ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, combined of all the presidents in the history of this country, has made more money as president than any of those other presidents. Hold on.
Him personally?
Yes.
Him
When he was
personally?
president. Yes.
Him personally,
Yes.
okay.
You can look that up
Okay.
and you can Google it. There is literally, I'm not saying there isn't corruption with other people. Of course there is.
My point is there's
no comparison.
Brian, look, my point is just be fair. All these politicians on the left and right have morality problems, in my opinion. You look at what happened with Swalwell just recently.
And unlike you, I called that out immediately and I told him to step down.
I actually do think that
You don't want Donald Trump to step down. You voted for him. I
don't want him to step down because of things he did in his sex life or tweets that he made.
So you think Swalwell should have stayed in office?
I never said that. When did I say that?
But Donald Trump can stay in office and be president. Do you see different standards for different people? No, wait.
No.
You brought up Swalwell, not
No,
me.
that's
the
fine.
second all
Bring
the
it up.
stuff came out about Swalwell,
Bring it up.
I immediately said he needs to step down and he is
Yeah.
a scumbag.
But there's actually evidence of it.
There's no evidence of Trump? There's no evidence of
There's
Trump?
no evidence that he raped anyone. No,
Okay,
there's not.
let's talk- we can
And
talk
just
about that.
And you could say
Okay.
you could say a court ruling, but I will also say this: courts also make mistakes.
Okay, so
Can
they
we
made a
not
mistake.
agree to that? Was Nelson Mandela, should he have been in prison?
So
just
there's a
'cause
difference
just because the
okay.
South African
so we
court
can we,
ruled
so
that
if
he
you
was guilty
disagree
of
with
a crime?
so if you disagree with the E. Jean Carroll case, obviously I would disagree with you on that. But there's a little bit more. Hold
All
on.
I'm saying is allegations don't mean that
Okay,
it happened.
allegations-
They're allegations.
allegations-
And there's a lot of people that don't want Trump in office. So yes, they're gonna pay.
So you're an
women
evidence. So you're an evidence-based person. By the way, I would
yes.
disagree with you on that. I think
Okay.
there's a pile of evidence
Okay.
that Donald Trump probably did some horrible things.
He could have, but there's no evidence
Who won
to
the
say without a shot
2020?
of a doubt.
Who won a free and fair election in 2020? Since you're such an evidence-based person, who won the 2020 election free and fair?
I honestly don't know.
You honestly don't know.
I don't know.
So you claim that
Yeah.
you're an evidence-based person, yet there is zero evidence of widespread voter fraud that we've seen in 6 years. Yet when I ask you who won a free and fair election in 2020, you say, I don't know. So your entire argument goes out the fucking
No,
window
it doesn't.
because you
No,
can't
it
admit
doesn't.
that Joe Biden
No,
won
it
a free and
doesn't
fair
because
election.
I don't trust either side at this point. So
Okay.
I don't honestly know.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. I better not piss you off because you look like you would fucking kick my ass.
I have the ability to make violence happen, but I'm a pacifist. at
I'm
heart,
glad to hear
so-
that. You don't look like a guy I want to mess with. All right. So obviously, you know the prompt. I believe Donald Trump is morally bankrupt. What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I'd like to establish a couple things here before we get started.
Okay.
And me going forward in this conversation with you, I want you to realize I don't want you to take anything that I'm saying as an attack on you personally. I actually think we might be able to find some common ground.
Good. I hope we do.
On one item here.
Just
So-
one?
Probably just one. Hopefully.
Okay.
That's the intent. So I have a couple questions for you. Do you have a lot of experience with women?
What do you mean by experience?
Do you have a lot of dating experience, relationship experience?
I mean, I'm 46 years old, so I would say probably. I've never been married before. I was engaged. I mean, I've never been accused of for sexual assault, if that's what you're about to ask me
that's
next. Because I've never or sexually assaulted anybody. I've never been found liable for sexual abuse. I've never had a woman that has accused me of. So yeah, I've never been married before. I'm not a perfect person, but as far as that's concerned, yeah, I would say I have some experience. Yeah.
Okay, so it's fair to say you have some limited experience, not too much. Now, statistics say 1 in 4 women here in America during their lifetime experience some form of sexual abuse. And being factored in those statistics as well, I think we could both agree any form of sexual abuse, especially against a woman, is one of the most heinous and disgusting crimes that could possibly be committed. We
I
agree.
agree, of course.
Do you believe women have the capacity to lie about being raped?
It's happened in the past. I could go to the Duke lacrosse story, which was a very big story. A woman who was very disturbed So absolutely, it certainly does happen. But I will also tell you that I tend to, most of the time, believe victims unless they give me a reason not to. We could be talking about everything. I'll be the first one to admit the Jussie Smollett stuff, while that wasn't a sexual assault, I think most of us, not all of us, but most of us, when we saw that story, we thought it was true. And then we learned he's a scumbag. He lied. Are there situations where women could lie? Absolutely. I tend to believe most victims when they claim they're victims, unless they give me a reason not to. But it'd be disingenuous for me to say that doesn't happen. I've talked about stories where it has happened. So of course.
I would say what you just said about leaning towards believing right off the bat. I believe that's a problem within itself. And before you respond, I'd like to ask you another question.
Sure.
Do you understand the difference between a criminal court proceeding and a civil court
Absolutely. I know there's a lower threshold, but as you know, I haven't just
proceeding? So let's identify that real quick. So a criminal proceeding,
Yeah,
in order to
I
make
understand.
a conviction happen, the evidence must show beyond the shadow of a doubt.
I understand.
Now, of course, like Alan had mentioned previously, the system is flawed. There are so many wrongfully convicted
Yes.
people in this country. Now, in a civil court proceeding, even if it's a restraining order,
Yeah.
still civil, that is by preponderance of the evidence, 50% of more.
Correct.
Very low burden of proof.
Understood.
Most civil court proceedings don't even go in front of a
Okay,
jury.
so the argument you're...
No, I'm
Okay,
getting there.
I
I'm
understand
getting
what you're
there.
trying to say.
So,
yeah.
the basis for your argument that Trump is morally bankrupt, you keep referring to the sexual assault allegations.
I've referred
the
to a lot
rape
of things. That's one of
allegations.
many. Yep.
That was what you started off with. And
Right,
that
but I've
seemed
named
to
a lot of-
be-
I've named a lot
that
of-
seemed
lot of
to be
things.
the consistent trend throughout these conversations.
It's one of many.
Now, what do you think should happen if a man is falsely accused and it comes out in court that indeed he was?
I believe if it's proven in a court of law, and I'm going to go back to the Duke Lacrosse case, then I believe that's a very serious crime. Now, let me just respond to some of the things that you've said. We're not just talking about one liable sexual abuse case. We're also talking about 30 women, including his ex-wife that was under deposition that claimed that he raped her. Then all of a sudden, those claims went away when he paid her off. There are a lot of women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape way before he went into public life running for president as a politician. There are a lot of billionaires in this country that have never been accused of rape or sexual assault. So I don't want to hear, I'm not saying you said this, but just because somebody has money doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be all these women that are going to make claims. I also go by the things he says, his behaviors, the things he does. I do believe there's a lot of circumstantial evidence as well, including being the best friend of one of the biggest sex traffickers on the planet for over 10 years, the parties that he went to, the women he was around. So it's not just about being a pig and being a serial cheater. I do believe he did some awful things. In the Epstein files, there's an 11-year-old girl at the time that claimed that he raped her, and the FBI thought it was credible enough that they interviewed her. Why that wasn't investigated further, I don't know. So I look at somebody's history, right? If nobody, Joe Biden is a perfect example. There was one woman that came forward that claimed that Joe Biden sexually abused her. She changed her story 4 or 5 times. His entire life, nobody has accused him of that before. And I don't find her credible because Joe Biden is a Democrat. I think Swalwell probably did some horrible things to women. I mentioned Bill Clinton. Anthony Weiner is a scumbag. He's done my show a couple times. He's a freak. I don't think Republican or Democrat doesn't have anything to do with it for me. I understand that criminal and then there's civil, liable, lower threshold. I understand the point you're making, but it doesn't change my opinion on Trump's history, all the women that have come forward.
So that right there, your opinion, exactly what you said, that's all it is your opinion. And that's fair for you to
Was he
have
not
that-
found liable,
That
though?
is fair for you to have your opinion. Now, he was found liable in what setting?
It was in New York City, right? Yep.
Civil.
Yeah, I understand.
right?
Yeah.
By preponderance of the evidence. So again, hasn't
Evidence that we haven't seen.
hasn't been criminally convicted.
I never said he was.
Here's the problem with
He was criminally convicted for other things.
This is my problem with you leading with that argument, right? I understand your distaste for Trump. That's perfectly fine. But the way that you present your argument, specifically within that subject, is damaging. I would say
I think his behavior is damaging. I think the way he
understand.
treats women is damaging.
I understand that.
I think talking about grabbing women by the pussy is damaging.
I understand.
It's more damaging than anything I've said in this conversation.
I understand that, but I want to get something clear to you. This is where I hope we could come to an agreement with this topic
Sure.
in particular. I would argue that there is probably a similar amount of men in this country who are falsely accused.
I would disagree with that.
100%.
I would disagree.
100%. Now, even if it's not the same, maybe it's a little bit off, regardless, it is a huge problem because we've already identified there is an issue in this country with women being sexually assaulted and women being 1 in 4. That is a terrible statistic. Let me finish. That is a terrible statistic. You know what hurts those women even more so? When other women falsely accuse men knowingly and everyone jumps to the side.
Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I kind of got that sense.
Yeah.
So
Not just me. Ton of people. I served in the Marine Corps 10 years. You know how many Marines that I served with had their entire lives ruined because of false accusations?
That's horrible.
It is horrible. And you know what it does? Those false accusations that we as a society allow women to get away with, it actually disenfranchises real victims of rape and sexual assault. For you to come on here and leading with that argument when there hasn't been a clear conviction, we haven't seen the evidence. You acknowledge that yourself.
So
what that does
let me
is
respond to that.
disenfranchises real victims.
So I
And
disagree.
not only does your argument disenfranchise women who have been victimized, it disenfranchises all the men in this room, including yourself.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
I'm
Come
not
on,
done.
you got to let me finish,
not
man. You're
done.
filibustering. You got to let me finish.
I'm not done.
You're not letting me talk.
Claim to be, you claim that Trump is morally bankrupt.
Absolutely.
That being your primary premises.
I have about 100 other things that I mentioned. You're focusing on one thing.
If you cannot acknowledge the way you went about that argument is damaging to both sides, then I would say you were the one that's morally bankrupt.
Okay, so you gotta let me respond, bro. You gotta let me respond. I'm being respectful.
Continue this argument.
Okay, well, first of all, I disagree with you. I didn't interrupt you, so now let me ask you a question. When a woman, and I'm sorry that happened to you, a woman falsely accused you of rape, did you file a defamation lawsuit? Did you hire an attorney? Did you go after her in any way, shape, or form? And I'm sorry that happened to you, by the way. That's horrible. Did you go after her in any way?
See, it's complicated. So for the security of my children, because it does involve the other side there, I can't answer that.
Okay. I can tell you that if a woman accused me of rape, the first thing that I would do is I would go after them if it wasn't true.
Of course.
I'm sorry
Now,
hold on, let me just talk about Trump now.
Well,
Let me just talk about Trump.
Well, one second, because this is an important point, and I want you to understand this too. So hopefully you can lead these conversations in a different way moving forward. You mentioned the civil process of suing someone making a false accusation. Do you know how much that costs?
It can be expensive.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. A typical
I don't think it's that
slander
much,
and
but-
defamation case.
but if you can
easily
prove
6 figures.
damages-
Do you think the average man in this country
Donald
can
Trump is
afford
not the
that?
average man.
No.
Okay.
These types
So hold
of
on.
crimes,
You're making my point for me.
It is a crime.
You're making my point
It
for
is
me.
indeed
Okay.
a
Okay. So let me
crime.
just respond to everything you just said. Okay. You're making my point for me. I agree with you. There are some people in this country that can't afford representation. Guess who can? His name is Donald J. Trump. He's had over 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. He hasn't, and by the way, this guy threatens to sue somebody if they call him an orange orangutan. He actually filed a lawsuit against Bill Maher for calling him an orange orangutan. He hasn't gone after legally for defamation any of these women, and I will tell you why. Because he doesn't want fucking discovery. That's why. Now let me go through this list. Hold on. Let me just finish. Please let me just finish. Please let me finish. Because we don't have any court records showing that he filed any civil suits against any of these women. Now let me
Do you not
hold
think
on.
there could be
Let me give you the
other
list.
circumstances
Let me
behind
hold on.
why he
There's
would
no
not file?
record. There's no
Because
public record of it.
here's the
Hold on,
thing.
dude. You gotta let me finish. I only spoke for like 20 seconds.
I'm gonna let you finish.
But dude, I gotta respond.
To correct you where you're
Okay,
wrong.
hold on.
I have to correct you where
Respectfully,
you're
just
wrong.
give me a minute.
Isn't it interesting to see that men in particular who are wealthy, who are in the public eye, who have abundance of access to women all the time, hundreds of different women flocking over to these men because of their wealth and status.
So Harvey Weinstein's not a rapist?
That
Bill Cosby's not a rapist?
We're not talking about these specific examples. Of course.
Don't use the excuse of money. That's
of
ridiculous.
Course some of these people
All right, hold on. Let me
can commit
my
these
friend,
crimes.
let me just
I'm not trying to discredit that by any means.
I understand. Let me just respond
But
to
there is a trend here that needs to be acknowledged.
Let's talk about a trend.
It is much more common for those people to have that influence and wealth to be targeted by false allegations.
Let me respond. I have to respond to all the things he said because it's a lot. And I'm going to respond in this way. You mean to tell me, and I'm going to go down a little list here, the man who's in the Epstein files 40,000 times, who calls people like you and me stupid for even bringing it up, who is protecting pedophiles right now as we speak, who was best friends with one of the biggest sex traffickers in the world, in Jeffrey Epstein, the man whose own ex-wife called him a rapist, and then he paid her off to shut her up, a guy who has literally 30 women that have accused him of for sexual assault, credible allegations that go way before he ever got into public office. Yes, he is a liable sexual abuser. Yes, he's had credible claims of young girls. Yes, the man who bragged about sexual assault. This is a man with a history and a pattern. It's not just about cheating on women. It's not just about paying somebody $130,000 in hush money, okay? The fact of the matter is that this man has a long list of a lot of, hold on a second, long
I understand
list.
your point.
So my opinion, hold on, let me just give you, I'll land my plane here. My opinion, okay, is the man has a history of abusing women, in my opinion. So I believe not just with the way he's treated women, the way he's fucked people over financially, his Ponzi schemes, the things he says about women, the things he says about Gold Star families, the things he says about POWs. It's not just about allegations that you may or may not believe. I would even put that aside for a moment and list you 100 other things that this man has said or done in his career that make him morally bankrupt. But that said, I'm sorry that that happened to you. That's horrible. And I think anybody who makes up allegations about anybody, and it can be proven in a court of law, it's terrible. And I find that crime, because it is a crime, right, just as bad as the actual crime itself if it happened. But I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Good. Thank you. All right. Nice to meet you. I think you know what my takes are on why I believe Trump is morally bankrupt. Why am I wrong? Where am I wrong?
So I'm actually going to shock you. I'm going to give you an admission, and I'm going to explain that admission.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that you've said some things where I don't know if you don't have the same hypocrisy that I see in the overall Democratic Party, then I actually might not have issues with your position either.
Shoot it out.
Okay.
Yep.
So I do think that Trump is morally, I don't want to say bankrupt. I think
a bad guy?
Yeah, a bad guy.
Okay,
I think he's low morals.
Fair enough.
However, I think that his lack of morality solely applies to things that he did as an individual. And I think that all presidents, not just Republicans, but also Democrats, and even like Kamala Harris, I think that their low morality actually applies to what they did while they were in office.
So give me an example of Kamala, and I'll tell you whether I agree with you or not.
I love Kamala. Yeah, you missed it. So Kamala Harris, when she was the district attorney for San Francisco, you can read the motion yourself. These are not my words. A district court judge eviscerated her. I mean, absolutely laid into her. And it was because she knew about exculpatory evidence. Might have been 300, it might have been like 1,000 cases. And that judge literally told her that she was morally bankrupt, that she was a disgusting person. That
because she tried to over-prosecute people that didn't deserve the sentences?
No, she knew about exculpatory evidence, evidence that proves someone is innocent.
Okay, and she didn't use it in a court of law, and that was proven?
No, the judge, this was literally a ruling from a judge. The judge said, you knew about this evidence. It was literally your lawful duty to report it to the court, and you did not do it. Those are not my words. Those are the
Do we
words.
know for sure that she on purpose did that, or that did she overlook it?
So when you question this, I think that you have a revolving evidentiary standard, and I think that when it comes to...
So if that's true, okay, what you're saying, then that's awful and that's wrong.
Okay. Can I finish though? Can I get into it though?
Please.
Okay. So she did that because it's not just one thing. There's a whole slew of things that she did. What we know for a fact that she did when she was Attorney General, she defied the Supreme Court. She defied them so much that the Supreme Court said they were about to issue contempt for the state of California. It would have been the first time in United States Supreme Court history that they ever put anybody or any state in contempt. Legal scholars, people who are more informed than you and I, said that she wrote motions in bad faith and were so egregious that she would be forever barred from holding a federal bench. Now, that's just the legal part. What she was defying was an order to release inmates from what had been deemed cruel and unusual conditions. Justice Kennedy, who's a conservative justice who sided with the Democrats, said that there was needless death and suffering on a weekly basis. It is absolutely egregious. It is absolutely disgusting.
So do you want me to respond to that
No,
first,
I just
or-
have one more.
Okay,
Just one more.
sure.
So that, and then with the prosecution of One West, which I think is comical because this involves Steve Mnuchin, who would later become Trump's Treasury Secretary. She should have prosecuted One West for what they did, from filing false paperwork against people to basically take their homes back after they had defaulted on mortgages. They asked her why. There was more than enough evidence to prosecute One West and also prosecute Steve Mnuchin, and she just said, "No, I'm not prosecuting them." And George Soros is a person who put her into office, and One West was a George Soros company that literally put Steve Mnuchin in there. So, and this is I'll land my plane right now. So what I'm trying to get at is that I think that there is low morality on both sides. I think that Trump's low morality differs, that most of it came in his individual capacity. And I don't think that that is on the same level as someone who engages in such behaviors while they're in political office that affects people over them. And it's like, if you're a district attorney, if you're an attorney general and you're committing these acts, those people that you're impacting, they have no defense whatsoever. So I don't think, and this is what I want to get back to, where I might not think you're a hypocrite. If you're willing to equally criticize both parties and say that both parties have no morality whatsoever, I can go on a list of Biden, I can go on a list of Obama, I can go on a list of everyone and say that I think they have also done things that prove they are bad people. So if you're willing to criticize both parties, then I think you would agree to me that it's not the parties, it's the system that is morally bankrupt, and that it rewards people who are bad people. Like Jimmy Carter, I do not agree with his economic policies. I think that he was
not a bad
unfairly,
man.
I think he was a fucking saint. I think he was an amazing
So let
person.
me just respond to some of the things you said, because you said a lot. I don't like to take an entire party and say they're morally bankrupt. I like to take individuals. I'm unaware of the topics that you are referring to when it comes to Kamala Harris. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just unaware of it. Here's what I do. Here's how I feel about Kamala. And by the way, I put out a video last week. I spoke with her last week for a few minutes. And after I spoke with her, I think I get the sense that she's not a bad person, but I don't want her to run again. I think she's a bad candidate. Here's how I do feel about Kamala. She appears to me to be a good mother. She appears to me to be a good wife. She appears to me to be a good family person. She's never been in trouble with the law before. If what you're saying is true, and I'd have to look more into that, if that is true, then it's horrible. And you shouldn't be practicing law if you're withholding evidence and that sort of behavior. I'm just unaware of it. So it's very difficult for me to comment on it if I'm unaware of it. I call out people on the left all the time. Eric Swalwell, perfect example of that. I can't stand Ilhan Omar. I can't stand Rashida Tlaib. I think they're bad people. I think Rashida Tlaib is an anti-Semitic piece of human scum. I think Nancy Pelosi probably committed insider trading. I don't like the Pelosi's, even though I defended Paul Pelosi when people were making jokes about him on the right when he was almost killed with a hammer. I can easily call, we mentioned Anthony Weiner and other people, but I don't have a problem going after somebody if I think they do some horrible things, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. Even if that stuff is true about Kamala Harris, and I'll just for argument's sake say, okay, it's true. I still put Donald Trump at a higher level of corruption and a higher level of a lack of human decency. So that's my personal opinion there. I disagree with you fundamentally when you say Donald Trump hasn't done anything morally corrupt when he's been in office.
I said most of your criticism that I heard from you. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, fair enough.
And the other thing too is, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I also think that he's been more in the spotlight because he gets views and he gets ratings. So I think some of what he's done is sensationalized. I understand that there's a lot of accusations against him for rape and things of that nature. But you could have someone else who's a billionaire and doesn't have any of those accusations. You say, okay, well, they have money, so what's the difference? The difference is this person is not promiscuous. This person was not in these particular parties. And when you're more promiscuous, I mean, there's no telling how many women that he
90% of
slept
those
with.
allegations, though, were before he ever got into public office.
No,
You do know- yeah.
and I completely and totally get that, but
Yep.
nothing ever came of them because I don't think there was enough to prosecute.
Well,
If
let me
there
ask
was
you about
enough to
that. Let me ask you
prosecute.
about that.
And I don't really want to.
I
Like
understand,
to
but-
me, this is a moot point.
No, I get that, but
yeah.
just quickly.
Yeah.
In the history of the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein, there have only been 2 people that have been held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
A plethora of children were, and sex traffic, it's horrible. We know for sure here, everybody would agree, there's more than 2 people that are responsible here. The only 2 people, I know there was an arrest in Great Britain, I get that. But the only 2 people have been held to any account at all, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Can I ask you something about that, though?
Yeah, sure.
So the Democrat, Biden, and Kamala Harris, clearly had these files. They knew what were in them.
Yeah.
So were they not also complacent?
Sure, I'll answer that.
Because I have not heard
I'll
one
answer that.
Democrat
Yep.
who can answer that question.
Yeah, I'm not a
soundly.
Democrat, but I'll still answer.
Okay,
I've been asked
sorry,
this
I didn't mean to
before. That's okay.
categorize
No,
you.
you're good. You're good. The overwhelming majority in the Joe Biden administration, Maxwell was under investigation. Then we had a trial. Then we had an appeal. Now, with that being said, those documents were sealed. If a Democrat ever had the opportunity, to release the files, it could be Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and they didn't, then I would absolutely hold them equally responsible.
So you don't think they knew what was inside of them because they were sealed?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I know that if they are sealed,
I'm just telling you how things happen.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of powerful people out there in those files on the left and the right. And I think a lot of people were
I
being
think
protected.
that's what it is.
But I will say this: under Joe Biden, Maxwell, was charged, convicted.
I get that, but the reality is that if Kamala Harris really wanted to win the presidency and she knew about those files, she would have used that left and right. That would have been the only talking
Well,
point.
if there's any Democrat that had the opportunity to release them, they didn't, then I would hold them equally responsible.
Okay.
What I do know,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I respect
what
that.
I do know is that Donald Trump is the president right now, and he's done everything in his power for us not to talk about it.
And here's what I want to get at too. And I want to say that I blame the Democrats for Donald Trump. And the reason why I
think that's fair.
is,
To an extent, I
you
think that's
pick
fair.
the worst candidates possible. Hillary
I blame
Clinton.
Joe Biden, though. I don't blame
No,
the
I'm
Democrat
talking
Party.
about Hillary Clinton now. Hillary Clinton, you could have ran anyone else. You had Bernie Sanders. He would have mopped the floor with Trump. And the Democratic Party is so damn corrupt that, in my opinion, they said we would rather lose than actually take an outside candidate like Bernie Sanders. And this is what happens in American politics, is that I'm from West Texas, right? Like I grew up, cowboys, guns, all that stuff. You see the shirt.
Yep.
And the West Texas that I grew up in, if Donald Trump, a New York liberal, would have come down there running for president saying he was a Republican, they would have been like, get a rope. Like, we're not buying that bullshit. And so I've questioned this a lot. Like, what in the hell had to happen where Donald Trump was able to sell what I think is
You're
this
not gonna like my
political
answer.
character? No, listen. But the reason, what I think it is because they look to the left and they say, Jesus Christ, if that is the only option, I would much rather buy his bullshit because, in my opinion, that is the lesser of two evils than electing a president like Hillary Clinton, Biden, and Kamala Harris.
I can tell you-
So, and I'll finish. This is what happens in American politics. I think that both parties run the absolute worst candidate so that the other side hates that side so damn much that they only hold their candidate to one thing, and it's that they're not the other person.
Well, let me just close by saying this, regardless of what your thoughts are on Kamala Harris, and we're going to get more into policy in a little bit. But I can tell you this, regardless of your personal feelings or what you think Kamala is or isn't, I can guarantee you right now we would not be at a war in Iran. We would not be paying $5 or $6 a gallon for gas. Inflation would not have rose 0.6%. I believe the economy would be in a much better place now if Kamala was president. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not saying she was a good candidate. I took a lot of shit last week as I put out a video and said, and I did say this, you could look at my X account. I said, if the Democrats' solution in 2028 is Kamala Harris, we are fucked. I was called a racist. I was attacked by people on the left, not because I have this disdain for Kamala. I think there are better candidates out there. And I disagree with you a little bit on Hillary Clinton, even though I did not vote for her. Yeah. I disagree with you a little bit on Hillary Clinton. I do think she was overqualified for the position. I didn't vote for her more for personal reasons.
I sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say one thing, is that I have researched Kamala Harris thoroughly, okay? It's a very personal issue to me. I've spent 7 years in prison. I've been
Jesus
through,
Christ, another guy that I don't want to fuck with here.
I've been
The fuck
through,
did you guys do to me here? Jeez, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I've been through prosecutorial misconduct. All right. I've been through prosecutors lying
Right.
and me having to give up years of my life because a DE agent and a prosecutor told fucking lies.
So you've been through it.
I've been through it. So I know
Our system is very broken.
Our
I
system
agree
is
with
very
you.
fucked. And I'm telling you, so
Yes.
I'm not just going to sit there and criticize a candidate
Mm-hmm.
without doing due research. And I have done the due research, and I have not just gone to like speculation about it. I've actually gone to the source documents. In that one district court ruling where that judge in San Francisco eviscerated her, that is a fact what she did. And if that evidence exists and you support her, and
I'd have to look at that.
now. I just think that it's irresponsible
Yeah.
that you didn't do that. And I think the reason why, because you seem like a reasonable person, you seem like a good person. I think
You're
the only
definitely wrong
reason
about
why,
that. I'm kidding.
I think the only reason why you didn't go deeper is exactly what I said. You hate Donald Trump so much where you're
Well-
willing to say, you know what? I don't need to
Well,
do
no.
any more research.
Even if, well, as I said, even if that stuff is true about Kamala Harris, I would have still voted for her because I think her policies are better, or would have been better.
So, well, you said guarantee. I don't think you can guarantee. I think that it's speculation. I would just, you said if Kamala Harris was president, I can
Yes.
guarantee, and you said all these things.
Yeah, she wouldn't even have a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel wouldn't have coaxed her into war in Iran.
That's speculation. So then we're not really arguing about facts. We're arguing about
I'm
opinion.
just telling you, even if that stuff is true about Kamala,
Okay.
I find it interesting that Republicans didn't use it against her. Donald Trump didn't use it against her in a debate. I thought she defeated Donald Trump in a debate. I didn't see any ad campaigns
Doesn't mean it's
referencing-
not true, though.
Okay, I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is I find it interesting that I didn't hear Fox News, Newsmax, or OAN talking about any of this stuff when they.
It was brought up in the primaries against Biden.
Okay, that might be.
It was brought
okay,
up.
that might be true,
Yeah.
but I'm saying how irresponsible for the Republicans if they want to win an
100%, yeah,
election.
I would agree with that.
And people like me maybe would have been a little bit aware of that
Yeah.
if it is true. But I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I just
Thank
want
you.
to say one
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
this is what I think the problem with the American political system is. Anna Arendt's one of my favorite philosophers,
Mm-hmm.
and she says, those who choose the lesser of two evils forget that they still choose evil. And I think that we as Americans are in a position to where we are constantly forced to choose the lesser of two evil, and
Well-
we think that's the right choice. And all of us need to remember
Yeah.
that we are still choosing
To
evil
what you
with
are
our
saying right
candidates.
now, I don't think Hillary Clinton is evil. I never liked her. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
And hold on, let me just finish.
Okay, and I'm gonna tell you one
Hold on,
story that's
hold
gonna
on,
blow
chill
your
out, chill
minds.
out, chill out.
I'm gonna tell you one
Somebody
story
in
that's
the
gonna blow
crowd
your
just
minds.
said, "I thought you weren't a Democrat." It's not what I think. I'm a registered independent who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, and I didn't vote for Barack Obama. We just had the conversation. I'm for border security. I'm for capital punishment. So it's not even worth addressing. What I was trying to say is, to your point, I didn't vote for Hillary or Trump because I didn't like either candidate. Now, now Barack Obama and John McCain, I didn't vote for Obama or McCain. Why? Because I would have been okay with either of them winning, because I think John McCain was a decent man. I wasn't a fan of Sarah Palin. If I'm a big lefty liberal Democrat, like some people want to put me as or mark me as, I would have ran to the polls and voted for Obama. I would have ran to the polls and voted for Hillary. I vote for people that I vote differently than a lot of other people. I put the human being first before policy. I think policy is very important. We can say what we want about Hillary. It was an anti-Donald Trump vote. We can say what we want about Joe Biden. It was an anti-Donald Trump vote. And by the way, I don't think Joe Biden is a horrible human being. I think
Crime Control Act of 1993. He's a
Okay.
disgusting individual.
So,
and Hillary Clinton supported that too.
I don't think Joe Biden.
The other thing too is I'll tell you something about the Clintons. Roger Reeves has been on this show. Roger Reeves was Pablo Escobar's pilot, right? He is the one who brought Barry Seal to the Medellin cartel. He would land in Arkansas, and Barry Seal would literally tell him, "We have to pay $50,000 a load for the man upstairs." I have been to Louisiana with Barry Seal's son. I have heard these stories firsthand. They are disgusting people. Hillary Clinton was absolutely a part of all of that nonsense. Roger Reeves got a letter from a man that wrote him a letter on his deathbed and said, "I was hired to kill you." And I'm not going to say who he said hired him to kill him, because I don't want to be responsible for any liability. But he's told me personally. And if someone is on their deathbed and sends you a letter to let you know that, I take that as highly credible.
Well, listen, here's what I'll say to end this.
The little
right?
boys on the railroad tracks.
Here's what I'll say to end this, okay? And this resonates with me, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I think Joe Biden's. I think Joe Biden was an okay president, but I will say this about Joe Biden: it resonates with me when he talks about the loss of his first wife and his daughter. I do believe he's a man of empathy when he talks about his son Beau Biden, who served the country, even Hunter Biden, who I've actually had conversations with. And now he's helping other people when it comes to substance abuse. And I listened to the voicemails. I don't know how they became public. The voicemails he left his son. And I hear a father who cares about his son.
The worst dictators in the history of this world were still good fathers.
Well, I'm not going to say Joe Biden.
I don't think that's
I'm
a
not
really
going to
good
say Joe Biden's a
evidentiary
dictator,
standard.
but I appreciate it.
No,
All right.
I'm just
Yeah.
comparing it. That you're literally saying that because of these things, I think he was a
I'm
good
telling you
president.
why
I'm
he
just saying.
resonates with me. And I don't think he's a guy that wants to openly harm people or wish people death or celebrate when people die. I don't.
I think they're all frauds. I think
All
they're
right.
paid
Well, you have the
actors.
right to believe that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it, brother.
absolutely.
Thank you very much. My second prompt of today is why I believe Donald Trump is very bad for America. All right, my friend, I think Donald Trump is horrible for this country for a lot of different reasons. Where am I wrong?
Well, I'm just actually going to stick to his first term because I think there's a huge difference between his first term and second term.
Okay.
So the Tax Cuts and Job Act, that was a great act. Reduced corporate tax, had an 11% investment, corporate investment in the United States. Had create opportunity zones, which allowed for billions of dollars of funding to underserved communities. He visited North Korea, opening up major relations, calming down a chaotic power. He shredded the TPP, he shredded NAFTA, and he instituted a new era of protectionism into the United States.
So in his first term, he got us $8.2 trillion of debt. Do you think that's fiscally responsible?
Well, I mean, no.
Can you just say no? Okay. So he was not a fiscal responsible president. This go around, the war in Iran. Do you think that's good for the country when we're spending $2 billion a day? When he takes away 20 million Americans off of Medicaid, takes away food stamps for Americans in this country that are struggling. We don't have any money. Did you get that $5,000 dose check? I didn't get that check. So on one hand, we can just print money when there's a war, which I would call ill-advised. We can print money for the American, American people. Screw you. $2 billion a day for this war, yet we don't want the most vulnerable people in this country. And by the way, those are the people that are struggling the most. It's not the tech billionaires. He gave the biggest tax breaks for the top 1%. $100 billion to the richest people in this country last year, yet we're taking away medical benefits for a majority of Americans that need it to survive. So we could come up with a few policies that you might like in his first administration, but the bottom line is everyday Americans are getting fucked right now. And the reason is because of Donald Trump's policies, and we can go to a war, which is ill-advised, but that's totally fine. Didn't he say he was going to be a peace president?
Right. I mean,
did he not say that? You tell me.
This is why I'm containing it to the first term, because the second term, he broke his promises. In his first term,
okay, let's talk about the first term. What were the? Okay, let's talk about that.
And speaking of Iran, just quickly, speaking of Iran,
yeah.
The other thing I forgot to mention is that he destroyed ISIS. He killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He assassinated Qasem Soleimani with minimal actually no civilian casualties.
Let's talk about the first administration. Okay. What were the two promises he ran on?
I guess the border security.
The two things that he ran on in 2015 were: we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. We're going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. I'm just wondering, how much money did Mexico pay for that wall?
Well, so I think a lot of people were confused about this. People thought that Mexico was going to actually write a check.
Did they pay for it?
I believe they did pay for it.
How?
With tariffs.
That's not what he said. And Mexico didn't pay $1 for the war, for the wall. And he never said, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Here's how I'm going to do it with tariffs. He said, Mexico's going to pay for a wall. Okay. And first of all, how much of the wall was built? So if that's your argument, Mexico did pay for it, which I would respectfully disagree with you. In his term, he had 4 years in his first term. How much of the wall was built?
This is a ridiculous. I know it wasn't completed. This is a ridiculous.
How much of it was completed?
I'm not sure.
6%. Is that a lie?
Is that a lie?
Yeah. I'm going to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. He built 6% of the wall. I respectfully disagree with you. Did he go after Hillary Clinton? Did he hire a special prosecutor?
Did you want him to go after Hillary Clinton? So
the question isn't what I wanted. The question is his promises.
So he explained himself on this, right?
Yeah, because he cared about Hillary Clinton and he didn't want to go after her. That's a great explanation.
If someone breaks a political promise and then they give a good explanation after, I can forgive that, right?
It's not a political promise.
We can allow for people to change their minds, right? And he decided.
You think he had a change of heart?
He said it in multiple speeches. that
Oh, so if he said it, it must be true.
He decided it was for
he wanted to take care of Hillary Clinton, and he felt compassion for Hillary
I just wanted
Clinton.
to say he felt it was for the good of the country, not to go after a political opponent.
Oh, really? What's
Not
he
to go
doing with
after-
James Comey right now?
Not to go after.
What's he doing with
not
James
to go after
Comey?
a president's wife. James Comey committed a crime, and he
He did? So 8647, FBI, arrest me right now. I just said 8647. Do you know how many times I hear people say I got 86 from a casino in Las Vegas? It's not a crime to say 8647. It's not a crime to say 8647. So let me ask you a question. If it is a crime, then why is it Todd Blanche was asked on national television the other day, all the people on social media that have said 8647, why will he not go after those people if it's a crime, but he goes after James Comey? I want consistency with our DOJ.
Okay. I'll answer your question.
Because it's a political opponent. That's why.
No. You talked earlier about how President Trump, he's the leader of the world, and how he should be held to a higher standard. James Comey, former director of the FBI, he should be held to a higher standard.
That's not how our laws work.
No. Well, yes.
Is 8647 a crime if I say it right now? Is it a crime?
It depends on your intent.
So you think James Comey's intent was to kill the president? With seashells on a beach? Are you fucking kidding me?
That appears to be what...
Do you know how many people have said 8647? So we're not going to go after any... By the way, probably people...
Hold on.
Some of those people might be lunatics, but they're not going after those people.
Every person who intends to kill President Trump should be investigated.
James Comey didn't attempt to kill President Trump. You know that's not true. The point that I was trying to make, sir, different standards for different people. If it's your political opponent, it doesn't matter if you're high profile. A crime is a crime. If you get caught with a DUI, you shouldn't be Matt Gaetz and get off 8 DUIs. Everybody should be treated the same under the law. And that's not what Donald Trump is doing, and I just proved that to you.
Let's use your DUI example.
Sure.
You have someone who's going a little bit above the legal limit versus someone who goes, 2-3 times over the legal limit. Obviously, the person who's going 2 or 3 times over the legal limit is going to be held more responsible. Now, should everyone be prosecuted? Yes. If it was viable to prosecute every person who's threatened President Trump's life, those people should be prosecuted.
So explain to me by that theory, when James Comey in Seychelles says 8647, and you have lunatics on social media that say 8647, explain to me why James Comey is the one and the only one that is, and by the way, these charges are never going to hold up. I fucking guarantee you.
I'm not a lawyer, so we'll see.
I guarantee you, this is what they do. By the way, look at Letitia James and all the other political enemies that Donald Trump has gone after. Can you please explain to me how those charges, how did those play out? Or the 61 times where they claimed that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. This is what they do. They go after their political opponents. And I'm not saying people on the left don't do it either, but this James Comey thing with Seychelles 8647, you can't look me in the eye right now and tell me you truly believe that that was a credible threat and that James Comey really wanted to kill the president. Can you tell me that right now? Because then it would be a crime.
I am going to look you in the eye right now, as I am right now, and I'm going to tell you that I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I don't know.
You think James Comey wanted to kill the president?
I don't know James Comey, but I don't listen. I don't know James Comey, but you know who does know James Comey? President.
All right, hold on, one at a time.
President Trump knows James Comey better than I do. President Trump's legal team knows James Comey better than I do. If they think if they think that he levied a credible threat against President Trump, he should be tried and he may possibly
All right. Well, here's the deal, right?
executed.
Here's the deal, right? The prompt is bad for America. Right. You know what I think is bad for America? When we treat people differently because of their political affiliation, okay? The Trump administration does that over and over again. Example, Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, who I understand is no longer in that position. But she had an opportunity to go after pedophiles in the Epstein files. She wouldn't even look behind her in a courtroom, okay? Or I'm sorry, in the House chambers and say, hey, I'm sorry. They're not even investigating it, okay?
Right, Pam
but
Bondi
yet,
is a joke.
You
She's
have
an
James
embarrassment. We all know
Comey
this.
in Seychelles on the beach who says 8647, and somehow you think that's good for America?
Final point.
Right. So this is why I was trying to contain it to the first term. Because I think the second term is...
Why can't you just say he's probably going after James Comey because he doesn't like James Comey?
Because 8647 could be construed as a threat against the president.
And you think that was a threat?
Could be.
You think, okay. All right, fair enough. Good conversation. Thank you for coming, by the way. I appreciate it. The guy joining us right now, this is really weird for me to say. It's very strange, but he was accused and arrested for an attempted assassination on Donald Trump, even though we disagree on probably everything that is politics. I definitely had your back on this one.
Yeah,
Because no, I don't
No,
think
no,
you're an
it's-
assassin. Even though Stephen Miller thinks that Alex Preddy was an assassin, I don't think you're an assassin. So I just wanted to say, Sheriff Bianco, is that his
Sheriff
name?
Bianco,
is an
yeah.
utter piece of shit.
Yeah.
So we definitely agree on that. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to start by something we
It's
agree on.
funny, man. I've been on your show a few times, and we argued pretty much throughout. But that's glad
Well,
we
because
agree
I don't
on
think
that.
because I don't think you're a violent person, and I thought you were mistreated, and I try to be fair with people. But you're a staunch Donald Trump supporter.
I am a Donald Trump supporter, and I think the topic of this particular pod is Trump bad for America?
Mm-hmm.
I would say if he was the only president we've ever had, I think there might be an argument to say, you know what, there's a lot of corruption and bad stuff going on. I think comparatively with all the other presidents we've had, I think is probably one of the better ones in history.
By what standards? The economy.
Just comparing him to the carnage so many of these presidents.
Who was the last president that got us into an ill-advised war?
George W. Bush.
Correct. Weapons of mass destruction. That was a lie.
Obama, by the way.
Obama
droned the crap out of people.
Obama didn't
That
get us
was-
into a war, though.
That was
Okay.
still
Hold
an
on, hold on.
example of violence.
Obama,
That was still an
okay,
example.
I didn't, but I said ill-advised war. So we can talk about. Well, again, there were 8 investigations into Benghazi, and Hillary was found that Republicans couldn't find anything on her. But anyway, going back now to Iran. Do you agree with this war?
I actually do not. No.
You do not?
No, I don't.
Don't you think that's kind of a big deal when the president runs on, I'm going to be a peace president, I'm not going to start any new wars, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in a war with Iran. Don't you think that's like a big deal?
This is why I preface this by saying you got to compare it to the other presidents we've
Joe
had. Because
Biden didn't get us
compared
into a war.
Joe Biden has done a lot of horrible things. Joe Biden, there was a gentleman here that was talking about how he was false accused. And if you look at back in the 70s and some of the legislation he was having passed, which is, Violence Against Women Act. And really what that did is that created a platform where a lot of these false accusations that are not proven in a criminal court, which is where it should be proven, then basically start a highway for a lot of men to land themselves
All right, so
in
we
jail,
can go
to
back,
have themselves
we can go
destroyed.
back decades into policies that you disagree or agree with when it comes to any Democrat, in this case, Joe Biden. Okay, I understand that. I'm talking about where we are at as a country right now. We just had inflation that went up 0.6%, okay? Unemployment on the rise. When you look at private sector job growth, and by almost every standard, look at the supermarkets right now. Look at the prices, except for eggs and a few vegetables. This is a guy who said, I'm going to lower all the prices on day one. I'm going to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. I won't be getting us into a war. There's going to be no regime change. Nothing but lies. And imagine, I keep saying this.
I don't know if it's nothing but lies, though, because I think, again, it's the positives of what he's done far outweigh the negatives.
By
Whereas
what
other
standard?
presidents, you could look at, well, for example, we got the border closed right now.
Let's talk about immigration.
The wokeism and all this nonsense with...
Obama deported more people than Donald Trump. And I can also tell you that ICE agents weren't murdering people in the streets, weren't shooting mothers in the face.
That's not Donald Trump murdering people on the streets.
So just because it's not Donald Trump, the buck starts with Donald Trump. It's why Bovano was forced into retirement. It's part of the reason why Kristi Noem was fired, because she did a horrific job.
You're talking about individuals on the streets, though, that
In
are
Donald
not...
Trump's administration, he said he only hires the best people. Look at all the people he fires. If he hires only the best people, why would you put some moron like Pam Bondi in charge?
I mean,
why
when
would you
you're,
put
when you're
Kristi
running
Noem
a
in charge?
corporation that big, you got to look at it as like...
Does he
United
only
States
hire the best
corporation.
people?
Sometimes you're going to hire people that
All
aren't
right,
the best.
but Vem, I don't think you're a racist person, okay? When you're taking away people's First, Third, and Fourth Amendment rights away, which is exactly what, in some instances, they've done.
What ICE was doing?
Absolutely. There's
Wait,
plenty.
you're talking about illegal immigrants and
Yes.
rights?
So
But
you
they don't
no.
have rights. They're
I'm not
they're
talking about that. I'm not talking about illegals. I'm talking about randomly going up to people of color, people with accents, demanding their paperwork. That is against the law. There are also videos of ICE agents barging down doors without warrants. It happened in Minneapolis multiple times, and it is unacceptable. What happened to Renee Good and Alex Preddy is atrocious.
I mean,
Atrocious.
But if you're talking about that, then you got to look at the Biden administration and talk about the cities burning, end of Trump's administration, what happened with Seattle, all the carnage
Did
that
Joe
happened there.
Biden pardon any of those people? There were a lot of people that were convicted if you're talking about Black Lives Matter protests. By the way, I don't condone any violence, whether it's January 6th or Black Lives Matter. But the difference is Donald Trump decided to pardon people who beat police officers with their own batons. He
I mean,
pardoned
if we're
1,500
talking
people.
about pardons, though, you got to look at the pardons of every president. Again, you got to compare it. And there was a lot of bad people pardoned
Do you care
by
about
a lot
fraud?
of different presidents.
Do you care about fraud?
Of course I do.
Then let me ask you a question then. You think Nick Shirley's doing a lot of good work?
I think he's doing a pretty
You
good
do?
job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you aware?
I don't think it's perfect, by the way.
Do you
but
think?
yeah,
No, I think Nick
it's
Shirley
good.
is a complete idiot. But anyway, that's beside the point. Are you aware that Donald Trump pardoned over 70 people that committed billions of dollars in fraud? And
Which
in those,
is every president has done that. Because they're donors of theirs, because they pay enough money to get the pardon.
But it's not about the pardons. It's about fraud. We're talking about fraud now. Billions of dollars in fraud, and here's the kicker, they don't have to pay back any restitution. Don't you think it's a little bit hypocritical for MAGA supporters to talk about what we're discussing, which is fraud, and then have no problem with Donald Trump issuing these pardons of people that don't have to pay back restitution, billions of dollars? Don't you find that?
Again, I go into comparative analysis. I look at it as like compared to other presidents, how much damage has Trump done? How much more corrupt has he been than other presidents? Again, comparatively speaking, I don't think he's been as corrupt as the last 60
He's made more money. He's made more money as president than every other president combined since he's been in office. When you talk about the memorabilia, or lack of a better term, the stuff that he sells, when you talk about some of his pardons and the money that was donated to him, when you talk about by the way, how did that $5 million gold card work out? I mean, it's such a fucking joke, the stuff that he does on a daily basis. One person bought that gold card, and he rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin, an evil, murderous dictator.
I don't know if again, I don't agree with that. I don't think that I wouldn't call Vladimir Putin an evil, murderous
Who
dictator.
invaded Ukraine?
Well, Ukraine was actually our fault because of a lot of policies starting in early 2000s
Them.
with us encroaching upon their space via NATO and actually Trump's anti-NATO.
Did somebody force Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine, or did he do it on his own?
You know what? If somebody puts nuclear bombs at our doorstep, they tried it in the 1960s. We almost went into
So you're defending
World War III.
So you're
we
defending
almost blew up the entire world.
So you're defending Vladimir Putin invading one of our allies.
I'm saying it's comparative. I'm saying if somebody's saying that, okay, I'm a sovereign country, and I'm going to bring literally like weapons to your border like they did in Cuba in 1963 or 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis. What do you expect him to do? Why was NATO encroaching upon that space? Why is Clinton so into? Why do all these past politicians and presidents like the Clintons want to bring weapons to somebody's doorstep and provoke them?
So again, I'm going to stay away from. I'm trying to talk Trump, why I think Trump is bad for America. Here's what I think is bad for the world. When we, in a sense, condone an evil, murderous dictator for and that's exactly who Vladimir Putin is, all the women and children that have died, and then he blames Vladimir Zelensky. He calls Zelensky a dictator. Has Donald Trump ever called Putin a dictator?
I think you got to blame NATO and the fact that we're putting weapons on their doorstep.
Well, I disagree. Here's the person who I blame, Vladimir Putin. And guess who the two people who have made the most money off of this war in Iran are? Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin. They have benefited financially. By the way, I don't defend Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government. I think they're beyond corrupt, and I think Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. Just like I would say, in a sense, Putin is a war criminal. But you know what? I would defend this war if Iran either tried to attack us or invaded Israel the same way that Putin invaded Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky is not an evil dictator. He did not start this war. It was Putin. Benjamin Netanyahu has played your guy like a fiddle. If not for Benjamin Netanyahu, we are not at war with Iran because Donald Trump has been played and he lied to all of you. He said he would be a peace president and he wouldn't start any new wars. The last guy who started an ill-advised war was George W. Bush, based on a lie. This fucking guy can't even get his lies in order. First, it was regime change. Then we were told it was about civilians that need to rise up.
It's hard for me to argue against the Iran war because I was against the Iraq war. I'm against the Iran war.
Why is it always Republicans that get us into ill-advised wars? Why?
I don't know if that's true, though. I don't know if that's
Name
true.
me the last ill-advised illegal war that a Democrat got us in.
Lyndon B. Johnson got us into Vietnam.
That's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. That set a precedent.
It's a long time ago. All right, appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, man.
All right, thanks a lot, brother.
Hey.
How you doing, man? What's your name?
Good.
Sorry?
Simon.
Simon, you're ready to go.
I guess so, yeah.
All right, so I think Donald Trump's bad for America, Simon. Go for it.
Well, let me start off by saying that I voted for Hillary.
Okay.
I voted for Biden.
I didn't.
Okay. I voted for Hillary. I voted for Biden.
Okay.
I represent one of the many millions of Americans, of working class Americans, who cannot run as far away from the Democrat Party as fast as we can.
Okay.
I just moved to Vegas from Seattle. Before that, I was living in Portland. Their policies are cuckoo. And
Which ones?
where do I begin? All of them.
Give me one.
Okay, banning natural gas and making people pull natural gas out of construction.
Which
then
policy is that?
up. Well, in Washington, they tried banning natural gas.
Did it pass?
No, they banned it. Then
Okay.
it went to a vote. The citizens voted against it, and the legislature did it anyways.
Okay.
Well,
When did that pass?
this is just in the last year or so.
Okay, so the Democrats didn't have the House or the Senate, and they were able to pass this bill?
Democrats in Washington have everything.
Democrats in D.C. do not have the House
No,
or
Washington
the Senate.
State.
Okay, I
Sorry,
apologize.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
When you
I
said
I was coming from Seattle.
I apologize.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I
No,
used
no,
to
no,
live.
that
I
makes
thought
sense.
you meant D.C. Okay. All right. So
So my point is,
yeah.
there's a two-party system. If not A, then B. If not B, then A.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats, I'm not down with them anymore. So
But
that
you're down
leaves
with
me-
Republicans.
Well, that leaves me with one choice. Well, two choices. Either I don't vote or I vote for Donald Trump. So I voted for Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to defend anything he says because I do think he's a blowhard. He says some things sometimes you're just like, oh, God, really?
If you don't mind me asking, what tax bracket are you in?
I'm a stand-up comedian. That should tell you.
Okay. Is he doing, what is he doing? Taxes, and for middle America like yourself, I would imagine you're not a gazillionaire. I'm sure you're a funny comedian.
Sure, no tax on tips.
No, it's
and
not.
his-
It's not no tax
and-
on tips. It's no. Hold on. It's no tax on a $25,000 cap on tips.
Sure.
I would also
Which is
tell
a
you.
help.
Okay, but
which is the only
okay,
only
let's talk
politician
about
in my
that.
lifetime
Let's talk about
who did
that.
anything
Yeah.
for the lower
I
class.
disagree. So here's why. So let's just say no tax on tips, 25,000. By the way, people in Vegas make a lot more money than that in tips, and they're still paying taxes. But what good is it for somebody like a delivery driver or the grandmother who showed up at the White House and is bragging, I made $11,000 in tips? Guess what? People like that lose their health care coverage when her husband is dying of cancer. So what good is it to save $2,000 or $3,000 on your taxes when 20 million Americans are losing their health care coverage? They're losing government assistance. They're losing their food stamps. What good is it to save a couple grand on your tips when he's giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1%?
I don't know that person you're talking about, but what
There
I
was
do
a
know,
grandmother that showed up that was a
Okay.
delivery driver. She shows up to the White House. She says, I made $11,000 in tips, and it was no tax on tips. Thank you, Mr. President. If you didn't do that, she saved like $2,000 or $3,000. Her husband is dying of cancer. When someone is making that salary, they actually can apply for Medicaid. Donald Trump has made it difficult, and over 20 million Americans have lost their health care coverage. Do you know how much money it would cost that woman to take care of her husband who's dying of cancer? So while we brag about no tax on tips, $25,000 cap, by the way, he didn't say that when he was running for, he didn't say $25,000 cap.
Are you talking about the bill they passed where in a few years from now, if you don't prove that you're working, you're going to lose your Medicare?
So I'm talking about the big and beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nobody's lost their Medicare
That's
yet.
not true. That's not true. I know.
What I understood was
No,
that in
that's
a
not
few
true.
years from now, they're going to make you either A, say you can work, or you can't work, or you
Okay.
have to volunteer.
So
That's what I read.
So that's not entirely true. But here's what I will say to that. The people that are working right now, how many of them are offered healthcare coverage for people that are working full-time jobs?
Not that many, not enough.
Right, correct. Less
Yeah.
than half of the people that are working full-time are not even offered healthcare coverage. Of the people that are offered healthcare coverage that are working full-time, how many of those people can afford healthcare? Do you have any idea? At least 4 out of 10 are the latest numbers. That's a huge issue. Under Donald Trump's big and beautiful bill, many of those people, a large majority of them, are losing their health care coverage. I find that very problematic. So if we're going to brag about
What
no
I read
tax
was,
on tips,
hold on. What I read was that in a few years from now, they're going to put in a system where if you're on Obamacare, that you either have to prove that you can't work, or you have to take on some part-time work, or you have to volunteer. That's what I understood.
How does that, so they're going by people and the amount of salaries that they make, and there are people right now that they've clamped up on that are making under the threshold that you need to have health care. We could also talk about drug prices. We could talk about insulin, for example. I don't know if you know anybody that's a type 1 diabetic.
The medical coverage is not, I will not say is really my area of expertise.
What's Donald Trump's health care plan?
like I said, healthcare is not really my area of
Okay,
expertise.
but if you're going to talk about no tax on tips, cap at 25,000, unfortunately we have to talk about healthcare. And my answer to my question was there is no replacement plan. How could you call down?
We've gone down a road that I wasn't even trying to start off on. What I was trying to say is that when I left the Democratic Party, okay, there was a choice. Okay, so who am I going to vote for? So I vote for Donald Trump. I am very happy with what he's been doing.
What has he been doing?
Donald Trump right now is trying to fight back against the Belt Road Initiative. The stuff that he's doing on the global scale.
What has he done in a year and a half? Give me some positives besides no tax on tips,
He is trying to fight back
25,000.
against the BRICS nations.
Okay, I don't care what he's trying to fight back on. What has he done?
One of the greatest threats we have facing this country is
Donald Trump?
Is the axis that is surrounding us. It was Venezuela. You have Hezbollah camps in Venezuela. You have Iran teaming up with cartels. You have China shipping in fentanyl through the open border. That is to me one
The
of the
overwhelming
greatest
amount.
threats.
The overwhelming amount.
You also have these strategic choke points like the Panama Canal. So you ask, what did he do to fight back against the Belt Road Initiative? Donald Trump got us back control of the Panama Canal before I ever heard a Democrat even admit it was a problem. That was huge.
You
the
just
war
said-
against Iran, which I support, because
You support it?
Yes, because by stopping Iran.
What have they stopped? Okay, so hold on. Let me ask you a question about
Let me
Iran.
finish the sentence. By stopping Iran and by stopping Venezuela, what he is doing is he's fighting back against China at the strategic choke points of the oil and the precious minerals
Let me
and
just
resources
comment on that real quick.
we need for the next
Okay,
100 years.
let's talk about Iran.
One last sentence, one last half
Yeah.
a sentence. If by taking out Iran, he's protecting Taiwan. Because China gets 90%.
He just sold out Taiwan in China. He just sold out Taiwan.
China gets 90% of their oil
Yep.
from Venezuela and
I think
Iran.
most people would agree when you're at war with another entity, you win the war by your opponent giving up concessions. I think most people would agree with that very basic standard.
you kill your opponent.
Okay, hold on. By the way, they have a new regime, okay? And most would argue younger and more capable and more anti-American. But let me ask you a question. Can you name me one concession that Iran has given up?
Iran will never concede they're on a mission from their
Then how
God.
have they won?
Because they're on a mission from their God. They're not fighting for
So
resources.
what has he won? What has he accomplished? The Strait of Hormuz is closed. We blockaded the
We
blockade,
block-
which is the
we're-
dumbest thing I've ever heard
we're
of in my life.
It's brilliant. What are you talking about? That was a
Blockading the blockade. You
Yes.
think that's brilliant?
Yes.
Now I know why you
Yes.
voted for Donald Trump. Okay.
Yes.
That's brilliant. You're right.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Iran is not making money. They're losing $500 million
They started a fire, and I'm going to light the fire too.
What-
I mean,
what-
come on,
what
man.
did he do?
This is ridiculous.
He destroyed their Navy. He destroyed their Air Force. He knocked out the Ayatollah. He knocked
Let's
out
talk-
the 40 of their top
one at
people.
a time. One at a time.
Sure.
He knocked out the Ayatollah. The man was, by the way, I don't feel bad for the Ayatollah or his regime. They were horrible people. However, what is the point of knocking out the Ayatollah when they have younger, more radical, and more capable people? He didn't take out a regime. He got a worse regime for America.
They are splintered. They're not more capable.
Under what evidence? What are you talking about?
We're kicking their butt.
In what
turn
area?
on
What are you talking
CBS
about?
And you think we're losing?
We're kicking their butt. Our gas prices. Have you seen our economy right now? Have you seen our
Listen.
gas prices while Putin and Benjamin
Yeah,
Netanyahu
yeah.
are the ones
Gas-
making all the money? We're kicking their butt.
Listen, gas prices are going to go up for a short while, and then we're going to control the strait. We are going to control. We are about to be
Was
one of
the
the
strait-
largest.
where was the
we are
strait
about
3
to
months
be-
ago?
We are about to be one of the largest exporters of oil.
We are.
Yes.
God, in 2 weeks, right? It's always going to happen in 2 weeks, right?
Nothing
This war
happens-
is going to be over in 2 weeks.
Bro,
Remember when
listen,
he said he had a
nobody-
healthcare plan in 2 weeks?
Nobody.
The war is going to be over in 2 weeks.
Nobody.
Why do you believe the bullshit?
Nobody should fight a war on a time schedule.
Where was the
You
Strait of
don't- you
Hormuz was at 3 months ago? What was the? Give me the logistics of the Strait of Hormuz 3 months ago. Where were we at then with the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, let's just take the last year.
Let's take 3 months
we
ago.
have Houthis firing missiles at American ships. We have Iran controlling the strait and always using it as a bargaining
Was
chip
it open?
against the world.
Were we able to use it? Was it open 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Where are we at right now?
We're about to take it over.
But
it's going to
no.
be ours.
I didn't ask you what you think is going to happen in the future. You could think the earth is flat in the future. I'm asking you right now. Where are we at right now with the Strait of Hormuz?
We're clearing it and we're taking control.
Do we have control? Then why are they
Britain just
firing
said-
at our ships if we have control?
Britain just
It's
sent
closed.
stuff in. Bro, we are kicking their butt. We're kicking their butt.
Your definition of kicking butt, let me tell you the opposite of my definition of kicking butt.
Okay.
When inflation is up, Americans have to decide whether they're going to put food on the table or fill their gas tanks, which is $100. Private sector job growth is abysmal. So your definition of kicking butt, when all these people across the country are struggling, is very different, okay? I don't think, you know what I think is kicking our butt? Americans? Donald Trump's policies, getting us into an ill-advised war. If you're okay with this war, you were probably okay with the Iraq
You know
war.
who's okay with this war? Everybody who's under the death threats of Iranian proxies. They're dancing in the streets. They want the Iranian people are naming streets after Benjamin Netanyahu.
Why did Tulsi Gabbard under oath 10 months ago say that there was no evidence based on her own intelligence that they were furthering their nuclear capabilities? Why is it
I have no idea.
You have no idea. She must have been lying.
But,
She must have been lying.
Anybody who thinks that Iran was not trying to get nukes, I disagree.
Well,
they have been trying to get nukes.
You can disagree,
They've been
but you're not
saying it
Tulsi
forever.
Gabbard. Hold on.
They've
Tulsi
been saying
Gabbard.
it forever.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Iran has been an enemy of the United States since the Naked
Just because,
Gun and Leslie Nielsen
so
burst in the door.
So by your standard, we should go to war with North Korea. We should have gone to war with Assad. We should go to war with Vladimir Putin. Again, 8 months ago, we were told, what did we obliterate?
Iran was a threat to the global stability.
So
and the fact that Donald Trump got the other Muslim nations on our side working with Israel is a miracle.
Yeah, they're all working with us. Okay. This could be fiery.
No, this will be good. So I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, you and Donald Trump might actually agree on something.
What's that? No, I will not put on 8 layers of orange makeup.
I really thought you would. What is your thoughts on abortion?
As I've always said, I believe that a woman should have the right to choose. However, I do think late-term abortion, I would be willing to concede, unless it's health reasons for the mother, obviously. Obviously, I don't want women to use abortion as, for lack of a better term, birth control. But I think there are some radical views on the right when it comes to this issue. I think if you're a woman that is the victim of incest, or for a Republican, a middle-aged, crusty white guy to go up to that 13-year-old girl and say, you must have that baby, I think it's fucking pathetic. I think it's horrible.
Do you think life is horrible?
Well, your definition of life...
When does life begin?
So your definition of life is very different than my definition of life. My opinion...
Scientifically, when does life begin?
Again, my
Facts over
definition...
feelings.
I'm asking you. This isn't feelings. I know you want to play Charlie Kirk on me, and that's fine. My definition of life, and again, this is my definition of it. And by the way, if you noticed, we're both not women. We both don't know what it's like to be pregnant. We both don't know what that difficult decision is. Okay?
Have you ever owned a slave?
Have I ever? Is that a serious question?
So you could still talk about something that you think is immoral, even though you're not the gender that it may be, or you've never actually experienced it, right? We can talk about the immorality of
I think
slavery,
slavery
right?
and abortion are
But
two
hold on.
completely different things. So I think your analogy is really off.
Hold on.
Well, I want to answer your question. I believe you're a life.
You're controlling a different life.
Okay, but hold on. I believe that it is not a life unless it could survive outside the womb. Now, there are people that...
96% of biologists would disagree with you.
Hold on. I would love to see that study, but I know that there are plenty of doctors and nurses and people that perform pregnancies every day. Some agree with me, some disagree with me. Here's the thing, and this is how I feel about any social issue, including abortion. And I'm not sure, how this pertains to Trump. I understand Trump overturned Roe versus Wade because of the Supreme Court justices. I get that. I don't like telling other people what to do, okay, unless it's illegal. Now, in half this country right now, abortion is illegal. So I don't believe, hold on, I don't believe geography should have say over a woman's body. Example, in some states, if a woman becomes pregnant and she wants an abortion, she has to travel to another state to get an abortion. That's fucking ridiculous. Geography should have no play over a woman's body. Now, if you, I don't know, you're 18, if you got a woman pregnant, I would say we all make mistakes in life, okay?
Life is not a mistake.
Okay, I say in life. I didn't say life was a mistake. I said in life. We all make mistakes. If you're a 15 or a 16-year-old girl, you have unprotected sex with a man, and the family on both sides agree she doesn't financially have the capabilities, I think that's okay. So now let me ask you a question with abortion. Right now, there are 400,000 children that are waiting to be adopted. In half the country, abortion is illegal. So if abortion is illegal throughout the country, there are going to be millions of kids that are waiting to be adopted. Are you willing to adopt 3 or 4 kids? I'm not.
I'm willing to adopt children.
Really? What would you say to all the people out there that are not willing to adopt children? Should they be forced to if there are millions of kids out there?
No, I'm not saying that they should be forced to adopt
so what do we do?
Hold on.
What do we do?
Can you let me finish?
What
Please?
do we do?
This is a very, very important topic here. Let me just finish. My my uncle actually were on the phone before right before we drove up here in the drive and we were on the phone with him. He's adopted 9 children. But you can't sit here and say that people don't want to adopt.
Some.
My own
then
uncle
why,
has adopted 9 children.
I think that's great. Okay,
So that is
I
great.
think
so
somebody,
life is great then.
Hold on.
So we should
Let me
rather
respond
have
to
life
that.
than kill it, right?
Let me respond to that.
Right.
Your uncle has adopted 9 children. I think that's awesome. And I think somebody that has adopted a lot of kids has more credibility than somebody who is anti-abortion. And by the way, there's plenty of people out there that think abortion is murder. They haven't adopted anybody. The point that I was trying to make is when you say abortion should be illegal, you have to be able to come up with those solutions first before even, in my opinion, making a statement like that. We literally have hundreds of thousands of kids that are waiting to be adopted that don't have parents. That's a problem. What do we do about that problem? The problem with
I think I've heard this argument a little bit before.
Well, I'm waiting for
With slavery,
an explanation.
actually.
This has nothing to do with slavery,
it actually
man.
does because
Nothing.
I mean, think about it. Slaves are going to get out of slavery with absolutely nothing, no home, no money, no nothing. They were slaves, right?
An unborn
Right?
child.
Right?
I disagree with you. Unborn is not a slave.
Just play along. Come on, I know you're smart guy. Just play along.
I just don't understand why you're bringing up slavery, but okay, go ahead.
So a slave, when slavery ended, did we really have a solution for that? We're just going to give all them houses. We're going to give all them tons of money, right? Like these people are already.
No, but these were people that were out of the womb, and for the most part, it was because of the color of their skin.
What is the moral difference between somebody outside of the womb and somebody in the womb? What is the moral difference?
First of all,
talk about morality. What is the moral?
Well, first of all, the important part about that is that I think 99% of society, unless you're an absolute racist buffoon, would agree that slavery was horrible. Owning human beings was horrible based on color of skin or whatever the case may be. In most cases, it was because they were black. That's horrible. Now, we disagree fundamentally because you believe that owning a human being as a slave, because you believe it is a human being, when you're, I would imagine, at the point of conception. Is that correct?
That's when
you
life
believe
begins.
It's life.
That's when 96% of biologists
Got you.
agree
So
with
you
me.
think eggs are human beings? Is that a fair characterization?
So when the egg is fertilized.
When it's fertilized.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is when conception happens.
So it has to be
when life can. That's when life begins.
So it has to be fertilized. So let me ask you this fundamental question with the most extreme case first. If a woman is a teenage girl, should she, a victim of incest or rape, should she be forced to have that child?
Yes.
So you would be prepared to tell a 13-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted, even though your family thinks you should get an abortion, even though you desperately want an abortion, even though everybody in your family, including doctors and everybody around you, want the abortion, because you have a different position, and even though that doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form, because it's her life, not yours, you want to force all these women, the victims of sexual assault, and tell them to their face, you must have that child because I'm anti-abortion. Here's the fundamental difference
So
here,
my mother
okay?
wasn't 13. She was actually 36 when this happened to her. Why don't you go tell that to her face?
Tell her what? I would say
That
if
she
you
should have aborted me.
No. Here's the
Yes.
difference.
No. There's no moral difference between that.
Let me explain.
There is no moral
yes, there
difference
is.
for the
yes, there
genocide
is.
of our children.
Let me
4,000
explain.
kids a day
You can yell.
are aborted
you
every
can yell.
single year.
You can yell.
You were the
or
one that's been
you
yelling
can,
the entire
you can,
time.
Then let me finish. Let me explain to you the difference here, the fundamental difference.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't tell women what to do with their bodies.
It's
let
not
me
their
finish.
body. It's not their
Let me
deoxyribonucleic
finish.
acid.
Let me finish the sentence.
It is not their DNA. What happens?
Okay,
Why don't
let
you,
me finish.
Okay, why don't you answer a biological
Hold on.
question?
Let me finish my statement because
What
you
finish?
interrupted me.
Your
okay?
statement is
no,
wrong. It's
no,
just wrong.
You're
It's
wrong.
blatant
You're
wrong.
wrong. You're
How?
blatantly wrong.
How?
Because if that woman wants to have that baby, I think she should do what she wants to do with her body. You're the one who wants to tell people what to do with their bodies.
It's not
You're the
her
one who
body.
doesn't have.
It's not her life.
Okay, well, you have the right
It's
to.
different
Guess
deoxyribonucleic
what?
acid.
Okay, guess what? You have the right to feel that way, but you call
It's a fact. It's not a feeling.
Okay,
You are
so-
basing everything
so
off
let
of
me ask
feelings
you-
for how you feel about women.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's an
It
absurd
is.
thing that you just
You can't
said.
back up any of this with
Absurd.
science,
No,
with logic, with reason. It's all emotion.
okay,
It's
so-
all about.
so-
oh well, if the woman feels this or this or this, it's not about.
It's emotion.
I
what
brought
the
up
hell do you know
it's
about being
different
pregnant?
DNA.
You don't know anything about this.
You don't
know anything about being
okay,
pregnant.
You don't know anything about owning a slave.
Have you even had sex with a woman? Do you even know what that is like?
First of all, my sex life with my fiance is. I don't know why you're asking me.
Okay.
That's a little weird.
It's a little strange,
But,
yeah.
You know,
Well, I agree. I agree. Just trying to make this even
a
more
little
awkward.
weird. I'm 18
but,
or 45. Come
okay,
on.
but hold on a second. So, all right, let's just say you're right.
Epstein files, right?
Abortion is immoral. It's murder. What about after the baby is born? Do you think we should care about that child after because you're a Trump supporter, right?
100%.
Okay,
And I'm
let's
very-
talk about that. Hold
and
on.
I'm very
Ba, ba, ba,
glad-
ba, ba.
and I'm very
hold
glad
on.
you brought up that point
Hold
because
on. Hold
there is
on.
one-
Hold on. Stop.
There's one
Let me
to
explain
three
why.
abortion centers
Hold
for
on.
every-
Wait,
Okay.
we're done with the abortion topic now. Let's just say for the argument's sake, I'll agree with you, okay? After the baby is born, the people who you support are against maternity leave. They're against
I support hold on. You said
You don't support Donald Trump?
Donald Trump on this policy?
No. You voted for Donald Trump, right?
I think that we should support mothers way better than
You're
we are.
not letting me
He's doing a
finish.
dog
I'm
shit
talking
job
about
at
Republican
that.
policy.
We're
You're
even-
not listening. You're not listening.
I'm America
After the
first.
baby,
I am America first. That means
Okay.
we put.
Yeah,
first
you're
of all,
America
we should
first.
put mothers first. By
then
the
why
way,
are Republicans voting against maternity leave? In every bill.
they should not be. I criticize them for that.
Why are they against
You criticize
healthcare,
your
food
own
stamps,
party.
food stamps,
You can
healthcare?
criticize your own party, right?
Of course I
And
can.
you can have your own
By the way,
opinions, right?
I'm
You
not
can
a
have your
part
own
of the
opinions,
Democrat
right?
Party.
You can have your own opinions, right?
I'm not a part of the
Do you
Democrat
criticize
Party.
the Independent Party?
I criticize anybody on both sides of the aisle if I think they're wrong. I'm
Okay,
very
so
consistent
I'm going
on
to
that.
name the guy that's actually running for the Independent. I believe it's the chair or something like that in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
where I live. He actually says that we should be in this war in Gaza. Do you disagree with him? Do you agree with this?
We should be in a
and
war?
Iran?
We should be in a. Of course, I disagree
Okay,
with
so
this war.
you disagree with another independent. That doesn't mean that you have your own opinions, man.
The point
you can't
I'm-
sit here and say, "Oh,
you're
the
missing my
Republicans are doing
point.
this."
You're missing
I'm
my
gonna
point.
say that they're wrong.
You're missing
right?
my. Okay, hold on. Forget about the
'Cause I
abortion.
have my own opinions because I think for myself and
yes,
so do you.
Yes,
right?
but
Checkmate.
let me finish. Basically, every government program to help the needy, Republicans constantly vote against. I can give you numerous examples, okay? The point I'm making is this. I believe you have more credibility when it comes to this issue if you're also for government government policy that can help single mothers raise children.
I agree, 'cause my mother is a single mother,
Okay,
and we
but
went through that.
But you support candidates who are voting against these policies. Donald Trump is bad for America because once the baby is born, he literally passes bills, and Republicans pass bills that are against maternity leave and health care and anything that can help single mothers and giving them tax credits. You think a $1,000 tax credit is enough for a mother to raise a child?
We should triple it.
Do you know?
We should triple it.
Triple? So you think 3,000 is enough?
Maybe more, actually.
Yeah. Do you know how much money it costs a mother to bring her child to the doctor?
6 or 7
Be
times
consistent
that,
when it comes to
honestly.
pro-life.
What?
Be consistent when it comes to pro-life.
Yes, I am. We should care
Then
about the
don't
baby.
vote for candidates that are voting against bills that would help mothers and poor women and people in
and
society
that's why
raise
we should
children.
get these people out of office if they're not going to be pro-life.
Okay, well, you didn't
we
address
agree on
what I
that?
just said. Well, you didn't really address what I said,
didn't
but I
address
appreciate the
anything about
conversation.
life beginning,
I
so.
addressed
You didn't-
everything.
you
I disagree
you
with you.
addressed it on emotional point,
No,
by
it
the
wasn't
way.
emotional, but
Nothing
I appreciate-
biological, nothing anything back.
I appreciate the conversation.
All right, I've totally forgot the prompt. I'm gonna be honest.
You forgot the prompt. The prompt is, I think Donald Trump is the greatest president in the history of the world. No, I'm just kidding.
Should I get you a
Now
t-shirt?
we're getting somewhere, yeah.
No,
No, why I think Trump is bad for America. And I think the end of MAGA is coming in 2.5 years or so.
Okay.
No notes, man.
Well, I'm gonna think about what should I'm gonna address first. So, as far as the MAGA, let me talk about the MAGA thing, and then we'll go to some topics.
Sure.
Why I think he's good for America.
Sure.
So, I'm gonna say I think MAGA enthusiasm and just the idea of countries switching more to the right has actually expanded and will continue. If you look at Argentina, if you look at El Salvador, if you look at Italy, if you look at Portugal. Japan just elected a more right-wing president. All these countries, a lot of countries around the world are starting to shift more to the right and leaving the democratic socialist policies
His
behind.
poll numbers are in the low 30s.
And Trump, yeah, currently, but that can also change.
It could, but how can you
Yeah,
say that he's got all this
but
support?
I'm not. Can you let me finish?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is Trump was the catalyst behind all these other countries that now are electing more right-wing candidates for the first time. That's going to continue rising because a lot of people all over the world are sick of the policies that I guess you're not a Democrat anymore, but
I was never a
you
Democrat.
push for Democrat politicians, it seems like.
I push for decent human beings.
People all over the world are fed up with those policies and have taken a look at what Trump's been able to do, even if it's not perfect, and are trying to implement the same things in their countries.
All right, you're long-winded, but let me just respond.
I don't think it's going away.
Let me just
I think
respond to
it's
what you just
actually
said.
growing.
This is the bottom line.
And I think
Hold
it's
on, let me just
evolving. It's
respond.
evolving.
Let me just respond to what you just said, and I
Yeah.
disagree. First of all, Donald Trump has some of the worst poll numbers in American history, okay? Among independents, he's now polling under 20%. He's in the low 30s. I've seen some polls, and by
I've
the way,
seen a lot of
hold on.
CNN polls
Okay.
that say he's very high. Tons of them.
What did you just? I think you're high.
Tons of them.
What?
Yeah,
name
there's
me a
tons of
poll.
them.
Name me a poll in the last year that shows Donald Trump on CNN.
After the show, I'll show
Give me
you.
one.
After the show,
Are
I'll
you
show
high?
No, I'm not. There's tons of polls that CNN
All right.
has came out with in the last
Every
year
poll
that say he's
right
high among
now-
his base. That say
Okay, right now, every poll, including Fox News and CNN and OAN and Newsmax, all show that the Donald Trump poll numbers right now are abysmal. They're the worst in American history. Forget about 6 months ago or a year from now. They blame Joe Biden.
Biden's polls are pretty bad.
Okay, again, this isn't about Joe Biden. I just said the worst in American history, okay? The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump right now is failing this country. It's why I say he's bad for America. You look at inflation, you look at gas
All right,
prices,
so let's
you look
talk
at the
about
war.
the policies, right?
Sure.
So this is where I stand on it. So I
Okay.
do support the war, like the other guy. You said he didn't do much in the last year and a half. I would push back. So
He pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists.
and,
he did do that.
And
You
Joe
probably
Biden actually pardoned more people than any other president.
Yeah, but what were the crimes?
He pardoned 8,000 people.
What were the crimes?
There was tons of violent crimes. There
Okay,
was nonviolent
can you give me one
crimes.
specific example?
There was
Name me one
tons of
person
it.
that
There
he
was
pardoned
financial
besides
crimes.
his son.
Hunter Biden. There
Right,
we go.
I knew you were going to
Right.
bring that up. Let's talk about Hunter Biden.
I don't know
hold on, hold on.
No.
I don't
know the people.
No.
Just because I don't know the
Hold on.
8,000 people's
Hold on.
names.
I didn't ask you for
Just-
8,000. I
yeah,
asked you for one, and the first person you named is
Okay.
Hunter Biden, and now we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Hunter Biden had an unloaded gun illegally for 13 days. He was a drug addict. Hunter Biden had some tax fraud. You had every single MAGA Republican for years saying they were going to go after Hunter Biden as soon as Joe Biden left office. That is not the same as Donald Trump pardoning a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat the shit out of police officers. Brian Sitnick died the next day. Multiple officers have traumatic brain injury. Don't fucking compare somebody. Wait a second. I'm not done yet. Give me 10 more seconds. Give me 10 more seconds.
So you think
I don't think
you think out of 8,000 people that Joe Biden pardoned, there's not one fucking person that possibly committed a crime
If it
that
bothers
you think
you-
is egregious
if
as
it
well.
bothers you that
He
much, then name
pardoned
me
more
one.
people than any other
the
president.
first person.
I don't know these people's
okay,
names
I'll
because
respond to
there's
that.
so fucking
I'll
many.
respond to that.
It's so many.
I'll respond to
It's
that.
so many
I will
people.
respond
It's
to what
more than any
I
other
will
president.
respond to what you
It's
just.
more.
I will respond to what you just said.
8,000
You got to let me
commutations.
respond. First of
Okay.
all, I asked you for a name, and usually when you give it,
preemptively
hold on,
pardoned
hold on, let me
Fauci.
finish. Let me finish.
Fauci was
I'll talk
responsible
about
for a lot of
Fauci. Thank you for
corruption.
naming
A
two.
lot of people-
Okay, thank you for naming two. Okay. I
Yeah,
asked
there
you
you
out
go.
of the 8,000 people because you seem to be criticizing Joe Biden.
And I
Hold
don't
on.
think the
You gotta
January
let me
6
finish,
people
bro.
were that bad,
Bro,
to be honest with you.
You got to let me finish, bro.
I don't think most of
Bro,
the January
you gotta
6
let-
people were bad.
Okay, I
really
didn't say most. Okay, I never said that.
Well, you
He
act like
pardoned-
because he pardoned all those people, he's a bad person somehow.
Yes, when you call
Not
people,
all those people
hold
are
on,
bad people.
I didn't.
A lot of them got overcharged.
Okay, hold on a second.
A lot
you
of them
can
got,
think
a lot
that
of,
people
a lot
got.
of them got overcharged.
You could think that they
for
were.
things
I'm
that
not
they
talking.
shouldn't have been.
I'm not talking.
And it was lawfare, and it was a
All right,
politicization.
it's not going to be any
You
good
were
if we talk
screaming
over
and
each other.
crying earlier, so
I
now
wasn't
I can
crying.
Do it as well.
I wasn't crying.
were.
I was.
saw the tear in your
I was
eye.
pointing out your I was pointing out your
You're
hypocrisy.
being hypocritical.
Okay, I just asked you to name me. You got to let me finish, bro.
I've
just give
already
me
named
30
two people.
seconds. Okay, you did. I asked you to name me people of the 8,000 people who were pardoned. Okay, you gave me Hunter Biden, which is a fucking joke.
He pardoned more than any other president.
Hold on. Let me finish.
That's the most famous one.
It's
Obviously,
not
I'm going to
okay.
mention that one.
No, but and then you name me Dr. Fauci. Can you please name me a crime that Dr. Fauci has been not only charged with?
He lied.
I didn't ask you if he lied.
In a congressional,
Oh, you hear that, everybody?
he lied
Lying
in a,
is a crime. I guess Donald
no,
Trump
no,
should be charged
He-
80,000
He
times.
lied in a congressional hearing 3 times.
That's okay. What?
He profited
Name me
and
a
made
crime that he committed.
profited and made royalties
Where's
off
that
of
been
pushing
proven?
a false narrative
Where's that been proven?
that later was proven false.
What crime?
I already told you the crime.
He was never
lied
charged.
He lied.
Nobody charged
He lied
him.
3 times
Nobody
in
charged
congressional
him.
testimonies.
Nobody
it's
charged
on the
him.
record. You can Google it.
Do you want to talk about
Yes,
lies
he did
under
actually.
oath? You want to?
He also profited
What was he charged with?
off of the biggest pandemic in the history of the world.
Where was that proven? Where did the money
Dude,
come
it's
from?
all public. It's all
No,
out
no, no.
there.
I didn't ask you.
Why
it's all
did
public.
he get preemptively
Okay,
pardoned?
I'm
then?
asking you a very
Why?
specific. I'm asking you.
If someone,
I will answer that.
Why
I will
did he
answer
get
that.
preemptively
You ask me.
pardoned?
I will answer
Trump
that.
was the one.
I will
Trump
answer that.
Had him
Is
in
that
office.
rhetorical?
Why
I will
would he be
answer.
worried about Trump?
I will answer that. I wasn't sure if that was a rhetorical question or not. Same thing with Hunter Biden. Now, first of all, I just want to be clear and be factual. To this day, Dr. Fauci has not been charged with a crime. That's number one.
He was preemptively pardoned. How would he be charged?
Okay. He could have been charged with a crime.
How?
He's never
He's
been charged with a
preemptively
crime.
pardoned.
Number two.
He
okay?
can't be charged when
Number
he's
two.
preemptively pardoned.
All the claims.
Do you know how it works? Do you know how preemptive
here's a
pardons
guy.
work?
I do.
That was auto
all
pen,
the,
by the way.
Okay. So the point
He
that
didn't, he didn't actually
all
cite
right.
it himself.
You want to talk about AutoPen?
Yeah, isn't that a crime?
Let's talk
Shouldn't
about-
that be a crime?
let's talk about
you want to talk
AutoPen.
about all the people Trump pardoned.
Let's talk about.
how is a president
Let's talk about
allowed
that.
to
Let me know when you're
electronically
finished.
pardon people when he's not even physically signing
Let
it.
me know when you're finished. Okay, I'll respond to that. So first of all, Donald Trump has been asked.
Did Biden pardon more people than any other U.S. president?
Let me know when you're finished.
It's funny, but it's true.
No, I think you're embarrassing
8,000
yourself.
people.
Let me know when you're finished.
Is it bad to pardon people? Is that your point?
Can I respond now? Is that okay? First of all, my position on pardons is I don't think any president should have the authority to pardon anybody. You didn't even bother to ask me that until now. Number two, you mentioned auto pen. First of all, it's never been proven that Joe Biden used the auto pen.
Well,
Number three, hold on, there he goes
pe-
again. 10
people
seconds
in
I
his
get to
own
talk.
cabinet
Let me
later
finish.
came out and admitted
Let
to
me
it.
finish. Who?
Pierre,
Who? I'm sorry?
the former press secretary.
What's her name again?
her John Pierre? Perrine Pierre?
Okay. Yeah, her name's not John.
she's
That's a
Haitian.
female. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Lindsay Lee, who was
so
one of the
so
top
on the record, she
lobbyists
said that the
for
auto pen.
Democrat-
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Lindsay Lee, one of the
Sure.
top Democratic
Sure. So let me ask you.
fundraisers
Okay, so let me
who
respond to that
actually
now.
switched.
Let me respond to
She's
that.
admitted that
Yeah,
a lot of the
she's a
things
grifter.
happening.
Let me finish.
No, she's an honest person.
Oh, she's very
So
honest,
You can call
yeah.
her a grifter,
Yeah.
but she's honest.
Okay, so-
most of the people in the
So,
Biden administration.
all right, let me respond to the auto pen.
Running a lot
Bro,
of the things.
let me just respond to what you
wasn't,
said about
but
the auto
you're
pen.
wrong about
Okay,
it,
let me
dude.
respond. So, Donald Trump pardoned one of the biggest drug Hold on, there he
look,
goes again.
I know he pardoned
4
a bunch of
seconds.
people that
Hold on
committed
a second.
crimes.
You're not even letting me finish, dude. I'm not
Because-
talking about how bad the pardon is. There's a reason why I'm bringing it up.
All right.
He pardoned one of the biggest drug traffickers from another country, was convicted in this country. We're talking like billions and billions of dollars worth of cocaine. Okay. When he was asked about it, and he's been asked about this pardon multiple times, yes, he said he didn't even remember and didn't know who he was. So please don't fucking lecture me on auto pen when the president that is in office right now doesn't even fucking know the pardon that he issued to one of the biggest drug traffickers in the history of the world. Are you even fucking aware of that? He didn't even know his name. He didn't even know what his name was. And you're talking to me and lecturing me about auto
He
pen?
meets tons of people. You know how many people have been. Do you think he knows every single January 6th person that he pardoned by name?
He knows what they did.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
He knows what they
Do you
did.
think Joe Biden knows all the people
He knows what
pardoned?
they did.
That's ridiculous.
Well, if you have
That's
one of the
a ridiculous
you
argument.
think, so let's
That's
go with this.
completely
You're
ridiculous.
attacking
He's the
Joe.
president
Hold
of
on.
the United States.
Hold on, let me
He's
get this
around
right.
Millions of people every
You're
single
attacking
year.
Joe Biden
He's not
for
gonna know-
allegedly.
He's not
Hold
gonna
on.
know. It's two different things, though.
Hold on. It's not two different
He-
things.
Okay, yes, it is.
No,
because
it's
Trump,
not.
Yes, it is. Let me tell you how. Because Trump actually signed it physically with a pen.
Oh my God.
Biden didn't actually do that.
Is this your
so
real-
that's what makes it different.
Is this a fucking argument?
Is
I
that
can't
not
believe what I'm
different?
hearing right
Is it
now.
not different?
All right, so
Is it not
let me
different?
get this right.
If he's sitting,
Let me
If
respond.
he's sitting in Trump's inauguration and simultaneously pardons are being signed while he's not even physically in the room where the pardons are being
Let
signed.
me respond.
How is that comparable to
Okay,
Donald
I will
Trump,
explain.
who actually signed the
I
pardons?
will explain if you will allow me to respond. I will explain to what you just said.
You can
So
try.
you are making the allegation allegedly that you have a problem with Joe.
You made a lot of allegations against Trump. So
Let me know when I
we
have
can
20
play that
seconds.
game all day.
Here's what I'm asking for. Give me the same amount of time that your guy lasted with Stormy Daniels. Can we do that? It's like 13 seconds. Can you give me fucking 13 seconds? Okay, please.
I'll start counting.
Thank you. Thank you. And here's the best part about it. I don't have to pay you $130,000 in hush money. Okay? So, you're making the argument that Joe Biden didn't know what the hell he was doing. He used the auto pen, and I don't know, he was senile or in the bunker. Okay. If that's the
That's what
argument.
his own cabinet member
If
said.
that
by the
wasn't
way.
13 seconds.
Yeah.
If that's the argument that you are making, then you also have to make the argument when you pardon one of the biggest traffickers, drug traffickers, who brought in billions of dollars of cocaine illegally into the United States. God knows how many people died because of this monster. Donald Trump not
How
only
many people did Joe
Donald
Biden
Trump,
let
hold on,
under
let
the
me
border
finish.
that
Let me
caused a
land
lot
my
of
plane. Let me
deaths?
finish. I know you don't want to talk about this. Forget about the people.
I'm not by the way,
Donald
I'm
Trump,
not defending the guy he pardoned.
Not only did Donald
I'm
Trump
not defending the guy
Not
he
only did
pardoned.
Donald Trump pardon him, but here's the kicker. He didn't even know his name. He didn't even know anything about it. Now, I think he's lying. I think he knew exactly who he was
Okay, maybe
pardoning.
he did.
But if the
But
argument...
at least he signed it.
Okay. All right.
At least it wasn't an auto pen.
Okay. Well, yeah, it
I
wasn't
mean,
a fake...
I guess every president is supposed to know every fucking person.
No, I think when you
They
when you
pardoned.
give a pardon to one of those biggest drug traffickers in the world, and yet you invade another country.
let's go into-
when you hold on,
let's
when
go
you
into
invade
another-
another country, and you say Maduro is bad, which he is, and you make the case we needed to get Maduro, which by the way I don't defend Maduro, but then a couple months earlier you claim about how horrible Maduro was with the drug trafficking, but yet literally a couple months earlier, you literally pardoned one of the biggest drug traffickers in the history of the world. It's called fucking hypocrisy, and that's why Donald Trump is bad for America.
All right. Who hasn't gone with? Right?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Obviously, there's tons of semantics with this argument, but there's main points that I hear all the time, and I'm hearing from you today with everybody here. It's about the war with Iran. You said yourself, if Kamala Harris was president, this war would not be happening.
Yeah, I believe
and
that.
I cannot stand this argument because this war is not because of Trump. Like you said yourself, Tulsi Gabbard, his own advisor, is advising against it, advising against the weapons of mass destruction. There's no bombs there. We've bombed them. There's no threat. The only threat here that's bringing us into this war is Israel and the government of Israel.
I didn't say that.
Let me finish, please. I'll let you talk about it. No offense, but I'll let you speak if you let me speak. So Bibi Netanyahu is dragging the U.S. into this war since the 1990s. He's been going to Congress saying,
Agree.
there's weapons of mass destruction. There are no weapons of mass destruction as we're being dragged in this war.
I agree.
Kamala Harris would have done the same exact thing. What was Kamala Harris's campaign policy about Israel? Do you know it?
So
Do you know
here's exactly her foreign policy when it comes to Israel. Well, I will say this. She did believe that we should obviously defend Israel because they're our allies. But I will also say this. Even on her way out the door as she was leaving office, she was supposed to have a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. She didn't even want to meet with him. I will say this. As far as the relationship between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, Donald Trump is being played as a fiddle. Now, the reason why I don't think we would have gone to war in Iran is I base it on Democrat policy and her foreign policy. Yes, of course, she believes that we should defend Israel and they're our allies, but here's the difference. And I made this point earlier, my friend. If Iran had attacked Israel, I would be for this war 100%. And the same reason why we are backing Ukraine, right? But I don't believe Kamala Harris would have gotten us into this war based on a whim. Donald Trump literally said that. I had a feeling. Do you really believe that if Kamala Harris was asked and she went to war with Iran, which I don't believe she would have, if she was asked, Kamala, Madam President, why did you go to war with Iran? And she responded, I just had a feeling. That's what Donald Trump said. There's no evidence of an imminent threat that Iran had with the United States. Absolutely. There's no evidence of that. There's also no evidence of an imminent threat to Israel. Okay? Absolutely. So
I agree with those stances, but the main reason, like I said, we're in this war is because the people advising Trump from Israel are advising him to be part of this war.
Because he was manipulated. I agree.
I let you finish. Come
Go
on,
ahead.
don't be a hypocrite. Bibi Netanyahu has been telling people since the 90s, like I said, that there's weapons of mass destruction, that we need to be involved in the war. He's been abiding by Trump saying, hey, you need to do these preemptive strikes.
Yeah.
He's telling Trump to do these things.
Okay.
Again, I think there's special interests involved. There's money involved, right?
Can I respond to what you just said about
I'm going to land my
Go
point
ahead.
eventually.
Yep.
Donald Trump obviously has money involved in the Middle East. He takes money from AIPAC, right? You would agree financial instances may be the reason why they're involved. Guess who also has a financial interest with the Israeli lobby? Kamala Harris. Not only does Donald Trump and many Republicans and Democrats take money from AIPAC, which should be registered as a foreign lobby, Kamala Harris took millions of dollars from AIPAC, which is special interest for Israel. Every politician is bounded by special interests. She was bounded by Israel as well. She would have done the same exact thing.
Okay, so you had just made the case that, since the early 90s, which I tend to agree with you, Benjamin Netanyahu has been pressuring. He pressured Barack Obama to go to war.
Absolutely.
He certainly pressured Joe Biden to go to war. But here's the bottom line. Regardless of what you might think Kamala would or wouldn't have done, regardless of your AIPAC and all this other stuff that you're bringing up, here's the bottom line. They didn't. Barack Obama got 97% of the uranium without putting one boot on the ground. Joe Biden did not go to war with Iran. So by your premise, you're saying, well, listen, Benjamin Netanyahu has been doing this since the early 90s. Right. Again, I agree with you. But here's the difference. The person that gave in and the person that said, okay, Bibi, okay, is a guy by the name of Donald J. Trump. While our brave men and women in uniform are coming home in caskets, while this war is costing us $2 billion a day, Donald Trump is the guy that gave in. You're making my point for me. I don't disagree with the Israeli government. I don't defend the Israeli government. And by the way, I don't think it's anti-Semitic to criticize the Israeli government. Absolutely. And I hate it when people say that. And this is coming from a Jewish man, okay? I believe Israel should exist, okay? Good people in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is beyond corrupt. Beyond corrupt, okay? But facts do matter. And even regardless of Benjamin Netanyahu's antics, behaviors, and trying to coax the United States into what I believe to be an ill-advised war, the one guy who gave in is the guy who you voted for.
And it's not just Trump. If Kamala was in the same position, it would happen now. Look at the previous wars we've had. There have been campaigns to drag us into these wars. When Bush was in office, it wasn't just, bam, we're in war now. They led campaigns to convince the American people to be led into these wars. Just like World War I, just like World War II. They can't just jump on the board of going into war.
Yeah.
The military-industrial complex is a profitable business. This is why we're involved, because there's profit from it. The reason why it takes so long to enter these wars is because they prolong it. There's a campaign to get involved. Not only Obama, Biden, and previous presidents as well have been involved in the Middle East. Obama drone striked like crazy. He killed U.S. citizens in the Middle East. He's killed innocent people. He's blown up hospitals. He's killed women and children. I don't hear Democrats, like I said, you're not a Democrat, you said it many times, but you don't hear many people in the aisle accuse or I'll go after Obama for doing, honestly, worse things than Trump did. In this term, again, and most Republicans, I can tell you right now, are against this war, the second term. But again, this is a buildup to the war. You can't just hop on a train if we're starting war tomorrow. It's a buildup. Each administration before Donald Trump has been building up to this war, whether it's establishing an embassy in Jerusalem, whether it's bombing the Middle East, bombing all the proxies in Iran, going against their funders, people behind them, propping them financially. And you also did say before there was no new wars, or you said wars weren't started by previous administrations. The Ukraine and Russia war was started under the Biden administration. That war has lasted a very long time, but it was spiked under the Biden administration, just like this Middle Eastern conflict.
Hold
By the way,
on.
no. I let you finish.
Biden's
just like the Middle Eastern conflict has been
That's
going on since
insane.
anybody before everyone in this room has been born.
That's insane.
It's been spiked
what you
under
just said.
Trump's administration
All right.
currently.
Well,
but these wars have been going on
first
for a
of
very
all,
long time, but they've spiked under Biden.
Again, facts matter. Okay,
Why-
and I'm
why
going to
is
throw
it-
out.
why
Hold
you
on.
You let me finish, man.
I thought you were
called
done.
him out. No,
I thought you were
interrupted
done.
me like
I'm
4
sorry.
times.
Go ahead and finish.
Well, I appreciate you.
I thought you were done.
accountability. Each president has done something with war, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, whether it's Obama bombing women and children, or Donald Trump being involved and dragged in this war. It's being dragged in by special interests, by Bibi Netanyahu, controlling all of these politicians because they go all to Israel and kiss the wall and take money from AIPAC. So it's not a individual decision. It's influence and control. And honestly, I think it probably has to do with blackmail, but that's conspiracy theory.
Okay.
I'm not going to go down that trail.
Okay. So first of all, we hear a lot of MAGA Republicans over and over again when it comes to this war, blame Joe Biden. The fact of the matter is that this war was not started under Joe Biden. If you're going to talk, hold on, if you're going to talk about Ukraine, the fact of the matter is, if you're going to blame Joe Biden for the evil, murderous dictator who Joe Biden did call out as such, Donald Trump has never called him a dictator. He's called actually Zelensky a dictator. Just because it happened under Joe Biden. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the pandemic for a moment. The pandemic started under Donald Trump. I've never blamed Donald Trump for this global pandemic. Now, I did blame him for his response to it, which I thought was an F-. Just like I wouldn't blame Joe Biden for the gas prices when we were getting out of a pandemic and the war had started. This was a choice. Now, you can say this has been going on for years and I blame Barack Obama and I blame Biden. You're entitled to that opinion. But again, facts matter. The last ill-advised war we got into, was under George W. Bush. This war was under Donald J. Trump. Now, you can shake your head and say, no, I blame Joe Biden. But last I checked, it wasn't under Joe Biden. And also in Donald Trump's first administration, I keep hearing people out there, they blame Joe Biden for this Afghan withdrawal where I believe if it was 13 innocent soldiers who were killed. Okay. So John Bolton, who worked in the Trump administration, said that his policy was identical to a policy withdrawal. It was horrible, but I don't hear you guys talking about the 5,000 Taliban terrorists that Donald Trump released, and then he invited them to Camp David. I don't hear you guys talking about all the deaths. Do you know how many soldiers died in Afghanistan when Donald Trump was president first go around?
Too many.
Okay, but you don't know the number.
No, too many.
Okay, it was over 160. Now, one innocent soldier dying is one too many. I agree with you. The reason why I bring this up is because they all want to talk about the withdrawal and the 13 soldiers that died under Joe Biden, which is horrible. But what they don't want to talk about is the fact that Donald Trump didn't go to any of those funerals of all those soldiers that died. Donald Trump didn't go to any fallen officers' funerals. The only funerals he went to under Joe Biden was for political gain. It is despicable. It is disgusting. I don't like anybody who uses anybody's death for political gain. Donald Trump does it constantly. And I think it's wrong. And that's why I believe one of the many reasons of why I think Trump is bad for America. I respectfully disagree with you. If you're going to blame Joe Biden and Barack Obama, the fact of the matter is we could talk about bombs and innocent people dying, which is all terrible, but they did not get us into a war. George W. Bush got us into a war. Donald Trump got us into a war. He lied to people like you. He said he would be a peace president. And did he not say that? He said he'd be a peace president, and he said he wouldn't no regime change, and he wouldn't get us into any new wars. He has set a precedence around the world with what he did when it comes to Venezuela. He set the precedent, which says if another country thinks that a president is bad and they committed crimes, we could go into that country and kidnap the president. I'm not defending this guy. He's a bad guy. But that is the precedent that Donald J. Trump has sent. That is bad foreign policy. It's dangerous for the world. And that's part of the reason why I think he's bad for America.
Sure. I'm going to respond to some main points. I sat patiently, let you speak. I hope you do the same thing. So I'm going to start off with the wars. I never said Biden started the war, never said Obama started the war. I said they caused spikes in the war. The Ukraine and Russia conflict's been going on for so long. He spiked the war. Kamala Harris was supposed to go there, meet with them. She didn't bother meeting with Putin. She said, I'm only meeting with Zelensky. Trump said, I'm going to meet with both sides, which he did, by the way. He also tried to get them in a room together. Didn't happen. He tried bringing them together. Kamala Harris and Biden did not. That's the reason why the war was prolonged, because they didn't even care to actually bring them together. Two, sure, Biden went to some funerals for some U.S. soldiers, but I don't think anyone here forgets the fact that he looked at his watch because he was so bored watching U.S. soldiers dead be carried beside him. And now I'm going to talk about the Afghanistan situation. Yes, those 13 soldiers were killed by the terrorists in the Middle East because of Biden's botched pullout. Yes, if you follow the guidelines, it was virtually the same as Trump's, but Trump had a slow withdrawal under his administration. It was slowly going. He wasn't going to completely pull out and leave billions of dollars worth of equipment, by the way, which Biden did and gave to the Taliban, which they now rule that country. By the way, kidneys are so cheap there because everyone's selling their kidneys because they have no money there. It's that cheap. And my point I'm trying to make here is Biden, instead of prolonging it and doing a slow withdrawal, he just took everybody out in one day. The Afghanistan soldiers, and I guarantee he knows too because he's a veteran, the U.S. soldiers trained the Afghan residents there to fight against terrorists. And guess what they woke up to the next morning? Gone. The U.S. soldiers were gone. Their only hope to save that country and protect them were gone because Biden withdrew in a single night that led to 13 U.S. soldiers being killed, which is, I don't say it lightly. Yes, I said every one soldier is too many soldiers dead, and it happens under every administration. But that botched pullout was nothing like Donald Trump was doing.
Well,
so those 3
again,
points, I just completely destroyed your points. I would hope you concede, but you won't concede.
No, you did not, because I just gave you John Bolton, who worked in Donald Trump's administration, that I think knows a little bit more.
Guy's a sham. I just told you.
Hold on. The guy's a sham if he disagrees with you. Okay, that's fair. That's very fair. So a guy that worked for multiple presidents, a guy that knew everything when it came to Donald Trump's foreign policy, said that Donald Trump's pullout was exactly the same as Joe Biden. I want to mention something else here real quickly because I think this is so insane, because I've talked about this with a lot of people. You mentioned Joe Biden taking literally a half a second to look at his watch. First of all, if you look at almost every single one of Joe Biden's press conferences, almost every single one of his public events, it was almost like a nervous tick. He looked at his watch a lot. That's number one. Number two, I noticed something you didn't bring up, and this happened a few months ago.
Go for it.
Donald Trump was wearing one of his Trump hats, the kind of Trump hat that he was selling and still sells on some websites. Donald Trump refused to take his hat off when we had those brave men and women in uniform coming home in caskets. You know why? And by the way, people in his administration have commented on this. Because of his hair. Because he didn't want his fake hair, the guy with hair transplants, floating up in the wind. So it was more important for the man who you support to make sure his hair didn't blow up in the wind than showing the respect for our brave men and women in uniform. But I notice you don't criticize Donald Trump for, I don't think it's funny. You don't criticize Donald Trump for wearing a hat, one of the hats that he sells.
Stupid. It's stupid.
Why didn't you bring that up, though? Why only Joe Biden?
The first time I'm hearing about it, to be quite honest, yeah.
Wait, hold on.
You never heard about it before, and I'm calling it stupid now. It's the first time I've ever heard about that. And by the way, it's not as bad as the other thing Joe Biden's done.
Hold on. So you notice Joe Biden years ago, a half a second glance on his watch. Yeah. But what you are completely ignorant to or unaware of is something that happened literally a month and a half ago that was even on in fact, Fox News played old footage of Donald Trump in the first administration. It was a whole scandal because they didn't want to show the actual footage of Trump wearing one of his hats that he sells because he didn't want his hair in the wind. So you don't know anything about this that just happened a month and a half ago.
A hat. He wears his red hat all the damn time.
So you're
He
okay
wears
with
it-
that?
No, I just said it's stupid. And by the way, Joe Biden wasn't always just, oh, what's the time? What's the time? It was at this exact moment
I
when
know.
U.S. soldiers were dead being brought by. I can't see, I've never seen pinpointed another moment where he had his watch on, he's looking because he's late for something. Because we know he wasn't. He's never late for anything because he's not running the country in the first
Okay,
place.
well, again, if you want to talk about veterans,
And I also do want to say the pullout in Afghanistan was different under Trump and Biden. It was
Okay,
a
well,
slow withdrawal. The
all right.
plan was the same, yet theirs was hyper-fixated on the and pulling out in one day.
Yeah,
That's
well,
not a slow withdrawal. That's quick.
Quickly, I just want to say this. If we're
Go
talking
for it.
about veterans,
Absolutely.
obviously, Beau Biden served this country honorably. I'm trying to remember, I'm forgetting his name, of the man who, I just don't remember his name, the guy that dodged the military 5 times. I'm also remembering the guy who said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured. I'm also remembering the guy who called our brave men and women in uniforms, according to General Kelly, a 4-star general, suckers and losers. If you can find me anything that Joe Biden has ever done or said about our veterans that rises to that level of disrespect, I'm open ears. Go.
I condemn all of those, and I always have.
Can you name me one thing that Joe Biden has ever said that rises to that level of disrespect?
He killed 13 U.S. soldiers with a
please.
botched pullout. Don't please me.
Please.
That's bullshit.
I said something that he
Botched pullout.
said.
Said and killed. Said and killed. Tell me what's worse. What's
All right.
worse?
All right, good. Thank you. All right, Simon, tell me why I'm wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Trump is bad for America.
I think Trump is great for America. I think you're dead wrong.
On what issue?
I think, first and foremost, Trump has changed the narrative globally about American strength in terms of our military prowess and our economic prowess. So
Let's talk about economic prowess. Is it good for America that Americans are spending on average $4.50 a gallon for gas?
it is in
Is
the
that
long
good?
run.
Okay, so you're making an assumption right now it's not good, but you're thinking in the long run it is good. Okay, what about inflation up 0.6%? The fact that inflation is the highest it's been in 3 years, is that good for America?
Again, it is in the long run. Because what's happening is that Trump is kicking out all of the illegal immigrants. And a point I made earlier is that robotics and AI are going to be taking over most of those jobs. Logistics, agriculture.
Do you care about our Constitution?
Sure, I love our Constitution.
What does it say in our Constitution about due process? Are you unaware? In the Constitution, it says every person has the right to due process. It doesn't say every citizen. Our forefathers put that in the Constitution. Is Donald Trump abiding by our Constitution and giving every undocumented immigrant due process? You said you care about our Constitution.
Right. For the Constitution protects Americans.
No, I repeat once again, in our Constitution, verbatim, it says any person. If our forefathers agreed with you, they would have said any citizen. It literally says verbatim, any person has the right to due process. So example, when you have people that are seeking asylum from Mexico, for example, and they're filing the proper paperwork and they're showing up in court, it is illegal for the Trump administration to deport them. What is the Trump administration doing? They're deporting those people. It's illegal. You say you care about our Constitution, but yet you're making the case that they said citizens. I'm telling you verbatim, that's not true. It says any person has the right to due process, okay? In a perfect world, I agree with you. I wish everybody was in this country legally. That's not the case right
Was
now.
America founded to give foreigners due
America was
process?
founded by immigrants.
Was America founded to give foreigners due process?
I just told you what it says in the Constitution. Doesn't that answer that question? In the Constitution, it says any person has the right to due process. They're taking away their First, Third, and Fourth Amendment rights away. You said you're a constitutionalist or you believe in our Constitution. Trump is literally ripping up parts of our Constitution as we speak. Are you aware that it is illegal in certain countries for us to deport people when they are seeking asylum? Donald Trump is doing that. They're literally tackling grandmothers in front of courtrooms. If you're a constitutionalist, you can't be okay with that. You can't be okay with that. I know you're not okay with that. Just admit you're not okay with it.
Well, my original point was that Trump has changed the global perception of American strength. And now you're talking about
Okay, well, that's
asylum
I guess
program
that's subjective. I think there's a lot of world leaders that are laughing at this orange turd. That's my personal opinion. But with that being said, we're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about immigration. You seem to have a problem with illegal immigrants. You are aware, per capita, you have the better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than you do an undocumented immigrant. You are aware of that, right?
Sure, I'm not talking about crime.
Okay, so what is your problem with those that are in this country? Let's just say someone who's been in this country for 20 or 30 years, hypothetically speaking. They have a family here. They work. You don't think there should be a pathway for citizenship for nonviolent criminals that have been in this country for decades that have families here? You want to rip up
I didn't
those?
say that. I think the
Okay.
laws should change, but I
Okay.
think in the meantime they should leave while they wait for them to change.
What are they going to change? What's the proposal from Donald Trump? You think Trump is great for America?
I don't think there is a good proposal.
Right. So why would you deport people and separate families when there's no proposal and you think it's wrong? Why should we do it?
To uphold the laws?
You're saying you're okay with people that have lived in this country for decades with families that are nonviolent criminals deported. But you're also saying, well, you know, we need some sort of plan for pathway to citizenship. I asked you, what is Donald Trump's plan? He doesn't have one. So then why would you be okay with him deporting all these people?
Because until we have a plan, we have to deport them.
And what's the plan?
We don't have one yet, do we?
So you want to rip apart all these families that are nonviolent? You think this is the problem in America?
They wanted to rip apart their family when they chose to cross the border illegally and have one here.
Or maybe they
That's
wanted
what they chose.
Or maybe they wanted a better
That
life for
wasn't
their
my choice.
Or maybe they wanted a better life for themselves. Maybe they wanted a better life for themselves and their families.
And
Maybe
be an
they-
entrepreneur in Mexico.
you think it's that easy?
I don't know.
Can you put yourself?
Figure it out.
Can you put yourself in?
I figured it out here in America.
Well, yeah, that's because you have a privilege and you were born here. Okay, they didn't have that privilege. It's very different. Can you put yourself in their position? This is one of my biggest issues with respect to Trump supporters or people that think everybody should be deported. The problem I have with so many Trump supporters around this country is they can't see themselves in the lens of somebody else that is less fortunate. The argument is always deport, deport, deport. Let me tell you something, my friend. These people are not all going to rape your children and kidnap their families. Most of these people are decent, hardworking people. And I got an argument from this, not you, but a moron the other day. You know what he said to me? He said, Brian, what was his name? Peterson? I think his name was Peterson. I did stupid moron. I did a show the other day. And he says to me, Brian, would you be okay with undocumented immigrants breaking into your home? Would you allow them to stay there? I hear this argument from these magtards all the time. Pardon my French. I said, well, first of all, one is a felony. It's called breaking and entering. Another one is a misdemeanor. We're talking about a misdemeanor, and you voted for a guy who's a 34-count felon. I can't put those two together. These are people who committed a misdemeanor, who have lived in this country for decades. We're talking about a jaywalking ticket. Why should we rip apart families? And why shouldn't there be a pathway to citizenship? Another argument I hear from MAGA Republicans is this, and then I'll shut up because I want to hear you respond. Last thing I'll say is this. I hear this other argument from MAGA Republicans, well, just come in the right way. We want you here. Just do it the right way. Okay. Which party is the party that's trying to make it easier for undocumented immigrants to become legal? Which is the party that wants it to stay the same or make it harder? Do you know it takes some people 10 or 15 years to become legal citizens? So if you think, and I hope you do, that a lot of these people are decent people, why would you vote for the party that wants to make it more difficult for these people, many of them good, hardworking people? You have the Democrat Party that wants to make it easier. Don't you think if it was easier for all these people to come here, they would do it the right way? It's not. It's very difficult. It takes a very long time. Go ahead, sir.
Every country, every first world country has a very difficult process to become a citizen. It's very long, very difficult. I lived in the UK for 6 years, got indefinite leave to remain after 6 years, after working there, paying taxes, etc. Took me several months to get the right paperwork to even get over there, even with a bachelor's degree, even with work experience, etc. So it's we seem to think in the U.S. that we need to just make it easier for everyone. No other country is worried about that. We're the only country that worries about that.
So don't you think we should be consistent? And let's forget about all the other countries for a moment, because this is still the United States of America, the land of the free, right? And we were founded on immigrants. Don't you think it's the responsibility of both parties to say, hey, we have an immigration problem here. We need to fix it. Let's try to work together, and let's make the process of becoming naturalized a little easier. Now, I think everybody should be vetted. I'm not saying everybody should just come into this country. I think everybody should be vetted. But the fact that some of these people do it the right way and they have to wait 10 or 15 years to become legalized citizens is insane. It's insane. The Democrat Party wants to make it shorter, easier process. The Republican Party, and why is that? I wonder why. I'll tell you why.
Make it easier to stay or easier
To become
to apply
naturalized.
in the first place?
All the above,
Right.
to become naturalized citizens. Now, here's my hypothesis, and you can tell me whether you disagree or not. I believe most MAGA Republicans do not want minorities in this country. I've always believed that it was never about make America great again. It was about make America white again. Why? Because the majority of minorities in this country vote Democrat. The reason why they vote Democrat, and there's a lot of reasons, is first of all, I believe that Republican policy is for the elitists. I always believed that. I always will believe that. The more immigrants that come into this country, the better chance that Democrats have to win. It's why in almost every election, not all of them, I understand Trump won the popular vote in the last one, almost every election, Democrats win the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Why is that? Because most people believe in Democrat policy, not Republican policy. It's the whole reason why we have the Electoral College, okay? If it wasn't for the Electoral College, you guys would be fucking destroyed almost every 4 years, except for the last election. I'll give you that. Minorities vote Democrat. Democrat policies benefit minorities far more than Republican policy. 13% of this country is African American. Yet 1% of the Republican Party is represented by African Americans. Geez, I wonder why that is. There is one party that wants more minorities in this country and want people to come to this country that are hardworking. They want the pathway to be easier. There's another portion, the main portion of the Republican Party, that do not want brown people here. It's make America white again. That is what it really means. It was never about making America great. There's nothing great about what happened to Alex Preddy or Renee Good. There's nothing great about what's been happening in Minneapolis. There's nothing great about these ICE agents wearing masks where we can't even hold them accountable. We don't even know who the fuck they are. There's nothing great about Jonathan Ross being put back on the streets when there's no full investigation into a man who shot a mother in the face. That's not making America great again. That's despicable. We don't want to live in that sort of society. And I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say it like it is. There are people, no, a monologue would be at the beginning. I've been here 3 hours. It's not a monologue when I talk about innocent people that have been murdered. Okay? I let you speak. You can speak again. You stopped, right? I didn't interrupt you, did I?
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you. He can handle himself. I'm not going to interrupt you. You can respond to what I said, but this is just my feeling on immigration in general terms. So go ahead, sir.
So African Americans aren't really still immigrating here. So that argument is kind of thrown to the side. In terms of Republican policies hurting immigrants, I don't know if they hurt Indian immigrants or Chinese immigrants or immigrants that are coming here for higher education, right? You seem to be referring to people that are coming here for low-wage jobs, like agricultural workers, farm workers, whatever. And again, my personal theory is that AI and robotics will be replacing the bulk of those jobs.
Which is unfortunate.
Which I don't think is unfortunate.
Well, I think the less people that are working is not good for the country. But in regards to what you said about African Americans.
Well, I actually think that Elon is onto something with universal income. I think that is potentially in our future as robotics continues to.
Well, I heard Elon was onto something when he talked about Doge and conserving. Did you receive your $5,000 check? Because I didn't. Elon's onto a lot of things, but he's not always honest. As far as the African American.
So you don't think there should be any attempt to audit the U.S. government and their spending?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
What I did say is Elon made a lot of promises to the American people. So did Donald Trump. He said he was going to find all this fraud. He didn't even find a fraction of the fraud he promised he was going to find.
Most of it's in the defense budget, actually.
Okay, well, we were told that we were all going to be getting a $5,000 check, and we never got that check from Doge. We were also told we were going to be getting tariff checks. We never got those checks either. Just quickly, the reason why I mentioned African Americans is because I believe there are a lot of white nationalists in this country that are all Donald Trump supporters. Now, this is the last thing I'll say. I've never categorized all Trump supporters as racist. I never will, because it's not true. But here's what I will say. It's not that everybody who voted for Donald Trump is racist, but I personally believe everybody that is racist voted for Donald Trump. It's not make America great again. It's make America white again.
Everybody was racist.
And we'll have to agree to disagree on that, I guess. But all right, thank you. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
If you learned anything from this episode or got any value at all, please share this episode with a friend. It helps us grow the channel, it helps us grow the podcast, and it means a lot to us. Thank you so much.